Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a sloppy sports and entertainment talk show about the New York Giants, the New York Mets, movies, TV, comedy, and a whole lot more. It's hosted by Giant Mess, Neal Lynch, the real cinch. I'm a plump and furry Irish-Italian-American who graduated from a Catholic high school, but isn't Catholic, and a college known for producing doctors and lacrosse players, and then became neither. Instead, I'm a blogger, vlogger, podcaster, writer, editor, video optimizer, content strategist, and failed stand-up comedian. Yikes. I have a hotline, 862-BIT-1986. Call it up, leave a voicemail, let me know what you're thinking, what's on the old dome. And then subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is currently, it's in limbo. It's on hiatus, a little bit of a hiatus. The username is Real Cinch. RealCinch. You can follow me on my official blog. That's neallynch.com, NealLynch.com, Facebook.com/giantmess, Twitter.com/RealCinch, RealCinch on Instagram. And on today's episode, this week's episode, lots of movies. Last episode was just the Giants and the Mets, and people kind of tuned in for the Mets, and then they were like, yeah, the Giants are gonna go 4-12 again, so I'm gonna bounce out before that. Get too deep into that. There's gonna be all movies this episode. It's gonna be 1917, Sam Mendes war drama that was nominated for a bunch of awards, and rightfully so. It was well produced. Bombshell, story about a few broads at Fox News. Midsommar, kind of a psychological mindfuck. A thriller about a cult. Uncut Gems, the quote-unquote comedy/drama starring Adam Sandler as a jeweler with a gambling problem. Jumanji, The Next Level, with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, Karen Gilliam, Danny DeVito, Danny Glover. All you're missing is Danny Bonaducci. Richard Jewell. He's not in Jumanji. That's all a separate movie. And about the 1996 Summer Olympics bombings, security guard Richard Jewell, a hefty bro, a beefy bro, who was accused of the bombing. And then a couple of oldies but goodies. Oldies in internet time, in actual time, pretty recent. Train to Busan came out in 2016, I believe, and Okja, which was a direct-to-Netflix, directed by Bong Joon-ho. If you haven't noticed, I'm on a little bit of a South Korean cinema kick. So let's get started. We are in year 5 of the coronavirus quarantine. My daughter has moved out, gone to college, and is expecting. That's how long this coronavirus has gone on. Movie theaters have shut down. Everything's shut down. And everyone has discovered Zoom. Good thing and a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. It's just funny watching people who have no experience with Zoom. I deal with Zoom several times a day. So I consider myself to be a little bit of a connoisseur. I wouldn't say expert. I don't know. What's higher, expert or connoisseur? I don't know. But I'm like not advanced level, well, maybe advanced level, intermediate, I'd say. So, our daughter, the daycare shut down. And so what they do is they have these classes, quote unquote, that are half-hour Zoom meetings, Zoom sessions with the teacher and all these other toddlers that are like a year and a half, 2 years old on iPads or laptops or whatever device that their parents have. And, the teacher's singing songs, reading stories, and the parents are trying to like make sure that their kids are sitting straight, not making a lot of noise, just making sure they're behaving. And these people don't know what the mute button is. Like, there's a mute button and they don't know what it is. They don't know where it is. They don't know how it works. And so you have, and it's ethnically diverse. So you have Indian parents, Italian parents, you have parents of all different backgrounds. And so you hear a lot of different languages coming through the computer. And the teacher's just like, all right, I'm going to have to mute you now. And it's funny how there is a teacher voice, especially with teachers that are dealing with like young babies and infants and toddlers. They have like the very high pitched, like cartoon character type voice. And then when they switch to the adult voice, it's jarring. And it's like, whoa, okay, we're serious mode now. And that's the I'm going to mute you voice is the serious non-teacher voice. But it's I wish they would do gallery view. Because there's gallery view and there's speaker view. Speaker view, don't put it on speaker view. You're not doing Zoom right if you got it in speaker view. Because anytime anyone makes a noise, the cough, sneezes, hiccups, whatever, grunts, breathes heavy, it like switches to them, and then they're like, and they get all panicked. So gallery view is the way to go, and you can't do it on an iPhone. I did a Zoom chat with some college buddies Saturday night, and I would try to do it on my iPad. My iPad just doesn't want to charge. Plug it in, and it's the little lightning bolt comes up, and then it's like it actually loses power. Don't know how that's happening. So I switched to my iPhone real quick, and the iPhone, you have to like scroll through multiple screens if you got like 10 people on it, 12 bros. You got to scroll for the bros. So iPad's the way to go. I tried to hook it up to the big screen TV that we have, but it's, you're looking at the TV instead of the camera, and then people are like, what are you looking at? And you're like, I'm looking at the TV. So iPad, laptop, that's the way to go. Full screen gallery view. And I can't imagine what that gallery view would look like with all these 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds just like drooling on themselves and like, throwing food. My daughter has gotten in the habit of just sticking her hands down into her diaper. She's just full on like if she dookies, she's going down there and she's like, I'm conducting a science experiment. I need to feel texture. Make sure that it's it's not too hard, not too soft. That's where she's at right now. She's very into the touching downstairs parts. Bath time gets graphic on occasion. And we have to be like, no. We have to like invoke Jesus a little bit just to like, we might have to like throw on a little mini baby chastity belt because it's getting a little out of control. We went on a fucking Zoom chat extravaganza on Easter Sunday. And my wife said it was like, I'd almost rather travel for Christmas's style to everyone's house than do what we did, which was just wall to wall Zoom chats. First with my mom's side of the family, then with her mom's side of the family, then with my dad's side of the family, then her dad's side of the family. It's just like, it's a lot. It's a lot of Zoom chatting, and especially with a baby that just does not give a fuck about your schedule or your calendar and just wants to eat, drink, and watch Frozen. That's all she wants. Or Fra Fra, as she calls it, which I actually think it might be a better title for it. Fra Fra. It's kind of like the Californian frat way of saying Frozen. Oh, you gonna get some Fra Fra? You know how like it, they shorten pizza to za. Like Frozen is now Fra Fra. And when she wants, she'll say Fra Fra sometimes, but most times she'll just say Anna. Like she can't say Anna. She's gonna go Anna. It's kind of like you got a nice little slope. It almost looks like the coronavirus curve at the beginning, just like straight up. And sometimes she'll go Olaf. She likes to like elongate the first half of the word. She kind of says Sven. She'll be like Sve. I'm like, all right, Sven. I'll give it to you. Judges, ding ding ding. No Kristoff yet, no Elsa yet, but Anna and Olaf. So that's where we're at. Just trying to like, we had a pretty good pattern going where it was like Frozen 1, Frozen 2, and then Nap, and then Moana, and then just fend for ourselves. Maybe mixing a little Blippi. I don't know. But we actually went this entire weekend 0 screen time, which is a major accomplishment. And like not for me personally, because like I think I've gone every single day of my life with TV. I've turned on the TV and watched TV every single day of my life. I can't remember a time when I didn't. So just for me personally, that was a huge moment to go an entire 2 days just about without any TV. And man, you want to talk about putting on a goddamn performance. Up there with Jordan's flu game? I don't know. I mean, Cassie had to go to the grocery store and the liquor store, which means social distancing, which means everything takes longer because it's like everyone's got to like stay 6 feet away and they got to wear the mask and blah, blah, blah. So we did Play-Doh. We ran back and forth. We do like, I don't know if you can call them suicides anymore. I think that maybe it's not PC, whatever. But the real ones know. If you played JV basketball like I did, suicides. You go to your foul line, you come back, you go to the half court and back, other foul line back, full court back. The hell do they call it now? I don't know. They definitely don't call it suicides, and there's no shot. But so we do that back and forth, the width of the house, running back and forth. Building blocks. Got these big building blocks, so we try to do that for a little bit. They're like Legos, big Legos, and then you have the big cushion blocks. So stack those, and then she knocks them over a couple times, and then I don't know. You just kind of have to improvise. At one point, I just laid down on the couch, and I was like, "Just have at it. You want to burn down the house? Burn down the motherfucker." But so if it wasn't Zoom chat, it's like, and then Cassie's dad wanted to do a Skype. And we're like, bro, Skype is so 2008. I can't believe you actually suggested that. And he's like, well, the Zoom security thing. I don't want anyone like bombing our Zoom. And it's just like, dude, no one's going to bomb our Zoom. Who is going to bomb our Zoom? Ugh. So that didn't work. That was an epic fail. But it's either Zoom or I just discovered Houseparty. And I know I probably sound a million years old to anyone under the age of 21. I don't give a flying hoot. But Houseparty is cool. It's just like you can tell it's an app made for very young people who have zero attention span because every fucking 2 seconds they're trying to suggest you play a game or something. It's like, nah, dude, I just want to talk to my friends. Like, get this game shit out of my face. And that was just the first 5 to 10 minutes of that Houseparty with my buddies from Hopkins was, how do we get out of this? We just kept getting, there was like it was almost like Cards Against Humanity. It was like I think it was called Chips and Guac or something like that was the game. And you just had all these like cards come at you there was like Jenny McCarthy, Tom Brady, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I don't even know. Do we just pick one? So I just picked Jenny McCarthy because I was like, that should be funny no matter what. And then, I don't know, there was a judge and the judge picked and people got points. And I don't, and then there was trivia for a little bit, which I went 2 for 2, might've gone 3 for 3, but Jesus, Houseparty, it's jumped the shark when my 71-year-old mother, 71? Yeah. 71-year-old mother and my 73-year-old aunt in Arizona want a house party with me. That happened. Let's get on the old house party with a couple senior citizens. Get loco. So that's been life, basically. Which, I mean, the Zoom chat I had with my other college buddies that I'm in a fantasy football league with on, was it Friday or Saturday night? It's just fantastic. It's great seeing everyone's face. I'm surprised people don't do it more often, and it's sad that this pandemic had to happen for people to get on Zoom and to do this, but I'd like to make it, I think we'd all like to make it kind of a regular thing, a weekly thing, maybe not a weekly thing, maybe a monthly thing. I got a group, I was on another group text and my buddy is turning 40 and his wife was like, hey, there's like 10 people on this group text. And she's like, hey, why don't you all drive down by our house and wave? No, I'm not doing that. Love your husband. He's a great dude. Very is solid as a rock. Great nips, great lips, but not driving an hour something plus to wave. And I immediately wrote back as like, we could also do a Zoom, have a virtual birthday party, and no, it's not like that what we're used to, but nothing's normal. This is the new normal. I know. I was wondering if I should do like a full SNL at home review, but I'll just say that the funniest skit, everything else was okay, you know. And my uncle, like, I was on a Zoom chat with my dad's side of the family, and he like kind of tore into. He's like, the Zoom was the only good one, or he mentioned something else, and everything else was stunk. I just can't believe it. Like, no makeup, no this, and I'm like, I mean, come on, guy. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and they're putting on a full hour-and-a-half show, just using like home video. Just like them on their iPhones. It's basically just like going through Instagram Live or something like that. Which I thought they did a pretty good job, all things considered. You know, they didn't have the use of a studio. They didn't have the use of like probably half their crew or more. They just had editors who jazzed it up a little bit. Tom Hanks doing the opening monologue. I mean, you know, that's where we're at. Like, the people that are still finding the wherewithal and the resources and bootstrapping productions, I applaud them just for being able to put something out there and not just throwing in the towel and being like, oh, fuck this, we'll just wait it out. But the Zoom sketch from SNL home, top notch. I mean, they really nailed it. I was also very deep in some teats, so it might have been less funnier than it was at the time, just because I was you know, a little bit loosey-goosey. Yeah, so that's life. A lot of Zooms. A lot of Frozen. My second ever, I just finished my, if you hear heavy breathing in the background, if you've been listening for 16, 17 minutes and you're like, why is there heavy panting in the background? Like, what's going on? It's my wife is on our Peloton. So a Peloton arrived. She's been crushing it. She's been on it every day. And so I'm not getting cucked right now. This is not a cuckold situation where like my wife is being pleasured by another man or woman in my presence as I watch. There's not going to be a Pornhub exclusive from this. But she's been crushing on Peloton. I just finished my second ride. So my first ride was yesterday, and I thought I was going to die because I hadn't worked out in, I mean, easily 2 years. Probably haven't worked out. Cardio, at least. And then today was my second ride. So there were like 45 riders on my first one. I finished in like 16 or 17. And today there was like 145, and I think I finished maybe like 59 or something like that. Not too bad. Definitely top 50 percentile in the beginners level, 20 minutes, which, you know, I don't need to work out my legs anymore. My legs are ginormous. If there's a Peloton for your upper body, maybe I could get into it a little bit more and feel better about myself. But like, if I just go every day on this Peloton, I'm just going to look like absurd, like reverse Popeye. Bizarro Popeye, just like giant legs, no upper body. Just like a fucking T-Rex, I guess. Yeah. My username is Chubbs Eaterson. It's kind of a play on Chubbs Peterson from Happy Gilmore, because I am fat and I love to eat. And my daughter loves to eat. Oh my God. Oh, Easter Sunday. My wife went, when she went to the grocery store and liquor store, she also went to the dollar store and spent $43, which means she got 43 things at the dollar store. Mostly like, you know, little toys, like Happy Meal type toys, Paw Patrol and Care Bears and, you know, Sully from Monsters, Inc. Which Care Bear was it? Cheer Bear? Of course, I was a Grumpy Bear guy because there's something chemically off about me, like just perennially depressed, like Eeyore, Grumpy Bear, Snuffy, like just like fucking sad people, sad characters. But yeah, $43 at the dollar store. Lots of toys, a lot of chocolate, and my daughter just demolished chocolate. As soon as she figured out what was going on, because we hid, quote unquote, the eggs inside and then later on outdoors. and we didn't hide them. It's like, she's not exactly sleuth level just yet. So we just place them around the living room, place them outside. We'd help her here and there, but she would get it. And she didn't understand it at first. And then we would open it for her and she would see, oh, snap. Some of these have chocolate in them. Hershey's Kisses, M&M's, York peppermint patties, which I thought was a bit, I was like, we're not, I don't know. I feel like you need a sophisticated palate to take down a York peppermint patty, but she ate it and she fucking loved it. So, oh yeah. We also filled a couple eggs with flarp, which I guess is like flubber, where you press it and it makes like a farting noise, but which we couldn't get it to do. So I was just like, major flarp fail. But she did not appreciate that at all. I was like messing with her a little bit because it's kind of like a ectoplasm almost, like, slimy, gooey, but not really. And she just like, she freaked the fuck out when I touched her skin. So yeah, she's a big fan of Easter. All that chocolate, and she just went haywire, and and she was just like going nuts. And my wife was like, what is wrong with you? What are you doing? I was just like, I mean, we can't just feed her chocolate and expect the best. we gotta batten down the hatches and just take one for the team and just say, you know what? Today's your get out of jail free card. Today and Halloween, we're gonna stuff you with chocolate and let you just go run wild. Be free. Just hopefully you don't end up in jail. So yeah, that's life. That was life. Ooh. So last time I talked to you guys was what? April 1st, April 2nd, right around April Fool's Day. And what an interesting couple of weeks it's been. I think the curve is starting to flatten. I think people are trying to figure out when this is all going to stop. And I saw I have some friends in that the fantasy football league that are medical professionals. They showed me some charts and some graphs, and I'm seeing like, all right, it looks like June 1st it'll start to come down. And I think July 1st is really when people are going to start to see things come back online, I think. So, anyone talking about there's not going to be a football season, no. I'm out if that happens. I don't know what I don't know what I would do. I would go full. I mean, I'm already watching classic football games, classic Giants games. I can't stop. I don't know what it is. I watched a Giants Raiders regular season game, Christmas Eve, 1989. Bo Jackson, Marcus Allen, both on the Raiders. Art Shell's their head coach. Dave Meggett's a rookie. He's making the Pro Bowl. We got Phil Simms, a quarterback. I think O.J. Anderson is our main back. And I was enamored. I loved it. And it was Don Criqui and Ahmad Rashad, which oof. At first I was like, wow, these are the two corniest, cheesiest broadcasters you could ever imagine. But you kind of just, I don't know, they kind of like, they have a nice little rhythm. They repeat themselves so many times, but you can't get lost that way. You're never lost when in those two. It's like, yeah, I mean, people question why he's in the Pro Bowl. Yeah, and Ahmad Rashad must have said, Dave Meggett's trying to every time Dave Meggett touched the ball, Ahmad Rashad's gonna be like, he just made the Pro Bowl today, so it's the extra impetus to go out there and show people why he's made the Pro Bowl. I was just like, all right, I get it, Rashad. Cripes. Don Criqui, oh boy. So that was an interesting duo, but I watched like the 1984 NFC wildcard game between the Giants and Rams with like John Robinson is the Rams coach. Eric Dickerson's the running back. I think Jack Kemp is the quarterback. Jack Youngblood was on the team. on the Giants, you had obviously Sims and Morris, Rob Carpenter. I don't think they had Bavaro at the time. Banks was a rookie. I think Reasons was a rookie. LT, Leonard Marshall. So I watched that in and out as I was doing my Zoom chat Saturday night. But I could watch any game where Pat Summerall and John Madden are the broadcasters. If they're commentating, I can watch. It doesn't matter who's playing. And some of the best Giants games are the ones between the Giants and the 49ers with Summerall and Madden. Those are the best. I watched the 1980 because I probably got fully on board and was cognizant of what was going on with the Giants in 86. I would say that was the first season where, I was 5 going on 6. I turned 6 in the middle of the season. So that's when I was like cognizant of what was going on and I could actually root for them and understand what was going on. I think I even went to a bunch of games. So it's like, that's the year where I was like, oh, well, I'm a lifelong Giants fan. So 85, 84, I didn't know anything about. 85, all I knew from 85 was from the Giants Among Men video where it was like, they just showed us getting our fucking shit pushed in by the Bears. And I was like, okay, they're saying that shutout in Chicago at Soldier Field was the impetus for putting together this team in 86. Got it. So that's all I knew about 85. So I was like, let me actually, because there are full games on YouTube. You just got to search them, know how to search, know how to navigate. So I would look through like all the playoff games on Pro Football Reference and just see like, oh, that looks interesting. That looks interesting. I don't remember ever seeing that. So then I went to the 85. I think it was the wild card game. It was either the wild card or the divisional round game at Giant Stadium, 85. Montana had like sore ribs or something like that. His ribs were fucked up. And the Giants ended up winning that game. I think it was like, I want to say 17-3 or something like that. Our defense was just lights out. John Madden was talking about Jim Burt's jersey. Him and Summerall were just making fun of Jim Burt's jersey all the time because anytime Burt comes up with a big play, the camera goes to him. I mean, Jim Burt's number, like his jersey was, I don't know what was going on there. They threw on like an extra kid small jersey onto a very large man. They said he was the strongest man on the team, and I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. Although you look at Leonard Marshall, dude is a fucking beast. So, and he was a beast in that game. Both Burt and Marshall were just wreaking havoc on Montana. I mean, the 49ers had Jerry Rice. They also had Dwight Clark. I think the craziest thing, and I tweeted this out, was like Dwight Clark left the game and they're like, Pat, do you have an update on Dwight Clark? And they're like, yeah, Dwight Clark has a slight concussion, but is expected to return. I'm like, okay, that's completely normal back then. Unbelievable. Nowadays, you got to go in the tent. There's concussion protocol. And it's just like back then they were like, he's going to make it back. He got his bell rung. Just got to smell some salts and then I'll just push him out back there. Which it probably still happens today. They just don't, the broadcasters have like, there's an ultimatum or an edict passed down from Goodell being like, don't ever say that someone has a slight concussion and is expected to return. But those games, like the 84 wild card against the Rams, the 85 wild card or playoff game against the Niners, I mean, there's just stuff happening left and right that would get flagged to Kingdom Come if it happened today. Late hits, personal fouls, pushing, shoving, throwing people, pulling them off the pile, like you name it, they do it, and it's not getting called. And it actually makes for a more, and I know it's much more dangerous for the players. Like, I get that. A lot more injuries and whatnot. Awful for the players. Great fan experience. Like, no flags. Oh, love it. So, yeah, I was, the 85 game, I was just really impressed with the fact that like Sims didn't really click at all for a while. I think it was like 6 of 17 at something, or at one point. It was just they were able to run the ball here and there, but just couldn't. He just couldn't hit receivers. He was overthrowing Joe Morris, which is pretty easy. And Morris was 5'7", but overthrow, had a guy open on the sidelines, overthrow. He just was inaccurate, but he ended up coming around. But see, he had the luxury of a defense that was killer, just lockdown defense, terrorizing Joe Montana. Oh my God, I miss that. It's just such like nostalgia overload. You forget. You keep hearing, in your mind, back of your head, if you're a Giants fan, oh yeah, the 80s defenses were the best and Big Blue Wrecking Crew and all that. But then you watch highlights here and there, but then you watch a full game of them in action and what they were able to do. And you're like, wow, dude, wow. Turnovers when you need them. Big stops on third down, big stops and goal to go. I mean, just like amazing. And the 85 against the game against the Niners, Elvis Patterson was hurt in like the kickoff or something like that. And so they brought in this guy I've never heard of before, like Ted Watts, 21 gigawatts. And he comes in, he's like guarding Jerry Rice and not doing a bad job. It's always nice to see the Giants owning the 49ers in the playoffs, because the 49ers, were the dynasty of the 80s, So, and I think they put up a stat in that 85 Giants-Niners game that was like the Giants have not beaten the 49ers since 79 or something like that. It was some crazy stat. That must have been the wild card, because then they go to the Bears. They go to Chicago for the division game. And that's when they get shut the fuck down, 21-0. But if the Bears don't exist, I kind of feel like we're going to the Super Bowl in 85. And I watched the 85 Bears 30 for 30, and they were saying, well, if fucking McMahon didn't get hurt or benched or whatever the hell happened in 86, they would have gone back to the Super Bowl instead of the Giants. So it's kind of like, nah, all right, I get it. Which that would have sucked if we didn't win the Super Bowl in 86. And then if Norwood hits the kick in 90, dude, boy, where am I at as a fan? I'm already pretty big. We've won 4 Super Bowls and I'm still, miserable. Not miserable, but, I think that we can be cursed at times. Then we get some lucky bounces. So, yeah, I'm watching a lot of classic Giants games. I watched the beginning or first half of the 86 divisional playoff where the Giants play the 49ers again. 49ers at the Giants Stadium. And I watched, if Jerry Rice doesn't fumble that ball on his way to the end zone, is that game completely different? Do they not get blown out? Because the final score was something like 49-3. When I turned it off, it was 28-3 at half, and it didn't even feel like a blowout. It still felt like, when they went up 28-3, that's when it was like, okay, wow, we're up big. But, I'm so used to watching that game highlights from Giants Among Men or whatever highlight video and seeing just the highlights. But to see the full game and you see it play out, you're like, okay, we really did, try to run the ball as much as possible and just own the line of scrimmage. And I think that's what Gettleman needs to get back to. And hopefully he gets back to, with this draft and just really have Saquon be a guy that can get the ball 25 times a game, 25 carries a game. And I want to say 10 targets in the passing game. But, you don't want to overload him. But at the same time, I watched Joe Morris run the ball. And they would hand the ball off to Carthon sometimes, or Carpenter, or Louis Tillman, or Roussan, whoever else was the second or third back. They would mix them in occasionally. But it was just interesting to see, like, we're going to run it on first down. We're going to run it on second down. And we're going to pick up 6 yards, maybe 7 yards. And then we got a nice short 3rd and 3. And all Sims did, and maybe I was just drunk, but I was like, Sims, all he did really on 3rd downs or 2nd downs, passing situations, he would just shotgun or something like that, or play action, and he would take maybe a semi-deep drop. They took deep drops back then, and let his receivers run down the field and then just dump it off to a running back, and the running back would pick up like 5-6 yards first down. It's like not very complicated, and it was extremely successful. So I didn't want to talk about Giants because I know people are tuned out when I talk about them, but I just had to get that in. But since we're on the subject, let me scroll on down. What are the games? So the Giants Packers 07 game. It was just throw it to Plaxico, basically. Al Harris had zero answer for Plaxico Burress, and I think a lot of people had zero answer for Plaxico Burress, and it makes me wonder why like 05, 06, 05, I guess we used him better. 06, he might have been hurt, but goddamn 08. I know I've talked about it before, but it's like, Jesus Christ, if he just doesn't. And there was a Reddit post today. It was like social distancing would have come in handy week 12 or 13 of the 2008 season. Because if fucking Plaxico doesn't go out, he doesn't get caught with a gun, he doesn't go to jail. Giants probably have him for the playoff run. And, say what you will about the Eagles. They were a great team, but I don't think they have an answer for Plaxico Burress. I don't think a lot of people did. He's just a big fucking body, 6'5", 230 or something like that. Lanky, long arms, big stride, hard to like get around him to defend the pass. Instead, I think we ran out there with fucking like, who was it? Manningham, maybe Smith. Nix wasn't there yet. Cruz wasn't there yet. And Hickson, I think it was. So it's tough. It's not the same. Can't play the same style of ball. But that 07 championship game, I tweeted this out. Lawrence Tynes. Holy shit. 2 kicks in the 4th quarter that could have put us up for good, possibly win. He misses both. I think the snap might have been bad on the one. The hold might have been bad on one. I don't know. But still, oh boy. And then for him to have the balls to be like, not even let Tom Coughlin have a second to think about it, just run out on the field in overtime for the game winner and nailing it. Oh. But that's the kind of mentality you have to have. And that's why I'm putting together a blog post on ranking the best and worst and Giants trades since 1994, because that's as far back as Pro Football Reference goes. And I have Tynes like as among the best trades because, okay, so he misses a couple kicks, but he comes back and he doesn't miss a third. Jay Feely. So I had him as one of the best trades. So that should be, hopefully I can get that out this week. I tried watching the 1981 playoff game, or was it week 12? Giants Eagles, and like Scott Bruner was the quarterback, and it was just a bunch of people like Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson were like the only 2 dudes that I knew. And I was just like, I don't know if I can really get into this. And I don't even think Parcells wasn't even the head coach at that point. I think it was Ray Perkins. So I kind of tuned in and tuned out, even though it was Summerall and Madden, and they didn't sound like Summerall and Madden either. I think that was early on in their broadcasting duo, because they felt a bit like they just out of broadcast school, or they just started to work together. There wasn't that playful energy that they had in like 84, 85, 86, and so on. Also watched some classic Mets games, the 2000 NLCS Game 5, Mets Cardinals. That was Mike Hampton's, like, not complete game shutout. Was it a complete game shutout? Holy shit. That didn't even faze me. But yeah, it was a complete game shutout. Timo Perez had caught the final out. And I love Todd Zeal, and I love, some of his clutch hitting, but it would have been nice to have Olerud in 2000. I feel like the series against the Yankees might have played out different. I don't know. That was fun to watch, though. The Blacks, they were wearing their blacks, and of course, like, Pete Alonso's made a big push for them to bring back the Blacks, which I'm all for. You gotta use whatever mojo you have in your like the 2016 season. We were running on fucking fumes. Half the team was on stretchers, hospital beds, back when there were hospital beds enough for everyone. And they brought back the 86 unis for that season because it was the 30th anniversary or whatever, the 86 season. This is going to be the 20th anniversary of the 2000 season. Let's just fucking play that up and build off that and use that energy. Like, I want to hear who let the dogs out after every home run and every win. Who let the motherfucking dogs out? Mike Hampton. It was like I think it was a 1-year deal or something like that. He was just such a mercenary. Just came in, pitched lights out, pitched us to the World Series, and then was like, bye. We had like Jay Payton got beamed in the dome, was bleeding from his temple. And like, I can't believe that, it was Mets were up big at that point. It was like 7, 8 or 9-0. So there's like, and McCarver's sitting there with Buck and he's going like, yeah, I don't see any reason why he would intentionally throw at him. What's the point? Blah, blah. And it's like, well, put 2 and 2 together and do the fucking math, McCarver. The Cards are about to get eliminated. They give 0 fucks at this point. They're not coming back. They're not winning this game. They're going to get eliminated. Why not just toss at batters? Why not just toss at hitters? And like, you're frustrated, you're angry, you're sad. Why wouldn't you do that? It was a fastball. It wasn't a curveball or slider or something that slipped out of his hand. It was a fucking fastball. The old number 1. So I'm surprised it didn't like get ugly after that. And then I watched Johan's Nohan, the no-hitter, the faux hitter, which was entertaining and exciting. And I missed it the first go round because I was in a bad spot. And I've told that story before, probably on the show, so I won't bore you with it again. But it was interesting to see, like, that was pretty much I think that was the last good game that Johan threw. But if you're going to go out, might as well go out on top like that. Like, hey, how'd you end your career? How'd you blow out your arm or your whatever? Like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? And I was like, well, it was a no-hitter. But I was, it's a YouTube live stream, and so you see all the comments, and it was just this one guy was just kept saying, world Mets best one hitter. And it's just like, yeah, unfortunately, we have video evidence. So it wasn't like it was in 1912 when there was no video. It was in 2012 when we have video and you could see the chalk jump up. So that's why, it's hard to get that excited about it. And I know most Mets fans are probably spitting on my grave, but like, I don't know. Yeah, in my mind, I know it wasn't really truly a no-hitter. They were even saying in the broadcast, Gary and Ron and Keith, it was like, they were all, Ronnie was very excited, and God bless him. And, Gary was building up the anticipation, the suspense, and he could feel his energy. And, they played it up really nice, but still, it's the very back of your head is just like, well, chalk flew up. And of course it was Beltran. And of course he was hired as our coach. And of course he didn't even coach a fucking game. So Mets. All right. So I wasn't going to talk about the Mets and Giants, and I spent almost half an hour on it. Maybe. Let's talk movies. Let's just do it. Okay. 1917. So here's what happened. Okay. Movie theaters are shutting down, right? They've shut down. I think AMC is declaring bankruptcy. Someone is selling their debt, which I didn't even know you could do that. And then there's some Cinemark is gonna something blah blah blah. I don't know. Movie theaters are shutting down, so and there was a Vulture article. I didn't even read it, but it had a good headline. It was like, if no more movies release in theaters, like, what does the Oscars look like? What does that ceremony look like in 2021? Like, do you have to be released in theaters in order to qualify for the Oscar? Whoa, great question. Mind blown. Anyway, so a lot of movie studios are delaying release dates, pushing it back, and for the unfortunate few that were supposed to have, like, that had their release date like right before the stay-at-home or quarantine was enacted, they've been pushed into what are being called home premieres, quote unquote. Which I love the idea. I think a lot of people love the idea. The concept is great. What's not great is the fucking price. You want to pay $20 to rent a movie. No, I refuse to do it. I'm not that hard up for your movie, dude. You know, the three movies that initially were home premieres, The Invisible Man, which I really do want to see, Emma, which I could care less about, and The Hunt, which I do have interest in. Just because I've heard there was so much controversy around it, and it was pushed because of something, might have been shooting, and so they had to push it because they didn't want to be insensitive, blah, blah. Which my blah, blah, blah right there was very insensitive. I apologize. But, you know, I go to click on it and I see $19.99 to rent it, and I'm like, no, thank you. You got to be kidding me. No, I'm not paying $20 to rent your movie. $20 to buy your movie, possibly. But nah, I'm not paying $20 to rent your movie. And I understand, like, okay, normally you pay what? $5.99 for an HD rental, and that lasts 48 hours. You're telling me you can't charge me $10 for a one-time viewing of your movie? If I go to the theater, it's on a fucking massive screen with a dope-ass sound system, comfy seats, big-ass popcorn. You get the experience of, if you have a good crowd, sometimes a bad crowd, can't do anything about it. You have these luxury theaters with like awesome recliner seats and like there's service, blah, 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 blah. And you pay less than $20 to see that motherfucking movie in the theater. Big ass screen, awesome beats, awesome audio. And it's a one-time viewing. Why are you going to charge me more to rent the movie? And maybe it is 48 hours. I don't know. I didn't even check it out. I was like, no, fuck this. As soon as I saw $19.99, I was like, I'm out. If you charge $9.99, hell, I'll even go up to $11.99. In that range for a one-time viewing, I would have done it. Absolutely, hands down. Right in that $10 range, one-time viewing, would have done it. $20 for 48 hours, no, I'm out. And here's the real kicker. And I have not seen this with any other movie, and it really grinds my gears. Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. You can rent standard definition. What kind of fucking psycho are you to do that? You can rent it in 1080p HD. It'll look good. You can buy it in standard definition. What kind of raging lunatic are you? You can buy the 1080 version. Okay. Maybe you don't have a TV that's 4K. And I'm not trying to be like that guy who's going to like poor shame you. There was a meme that went around with Always Sunny talking about the old poors and the new poors. I was an old poor. Not that I'm a new rich, but I can at least afford, 4K TV. I mean, you'd be surprised. There's some great deals on 4K TVs. So I advise you, check it out, because 4K is going to be everywhere in like a couple of years. Probably sooner than you think with this all going on. So you could buy a standard definition, you could buy 1080p, you can rent 1080p, you can rent standard, you can buy the 4K HD for $24.99, some nonsense. You cannot rent the 4K. And this is 2 weekends in a row now, after it being available to rent for like a week or two prior to that, you can rent standard definition HD 1080p. It's available to rent on those formats for 2, 3, 4 weeks now. You cannot rent 4K, and that is bananas, and it's bonkers, and I know exactly what they're doing. They want to force you to buy the 4K. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Even though I own all the first 6 I own. And I came very close to caving and renting the 1080p, but I was like, don't cheat yourself, Neal, because you're going to rent the 1080p and then you're going to watch it and you'll be like, man, I really wish this was 4K. And then you're going to rent the 4K. And so you're going to end up spending fucking 6 plus 8, $14 just to rent it twice. So now I'm holding out for another week. The holdout is killing me. I got to see why the fans love it and why the critics don't. And I've managed to avoid spoilers here and there. I think I've even managed to forget some spoilers. There's some spoilers like a few weeks into its theatrical release. And I just saw it and I immediately was like, neuralize. Boop. Anyway, so let's talk about. So I made all kinds of like deals with the devil with my wife. I was like, if we rent the 4K, blah, blah, I'll watch Brie for the entire weekend. You can go away and do whatever you want, blah, blah. And of course I couldn't do it. So I was like, deals off. Sorry, deals off. We never shook on it. So instead we watched 1917, which, is probably best known for having, what I hear most about it is the use of the continuous shot. The single one shot, okay? Or what appears to be the continuous shot. There are not a lot of cuts. It doesn't look like there are a lot of cuts. So it follows 2 soldiers. One has a brother. The brother is part of an infantry that is a regiment that's about to go on the offensive, on the attack, but it's a trap. The Brits, so it's the Brits and the Germans. And the Brits catch wind of this and they're like, was it Colin Firth, who's like the general, gives the note to the brother. He's like, you're good with maps. Here's where you got to go. There's where your brother is. They're going to get snuck. They're going to get snuck, son. So you need to get there before it happens. So they have it's supposed to be like a 6 to 8 hour trip or something. They got to get there, cross through enemy territory to like where they're set up to give them the heads up so that we don't have massive loss of lives from the Brits. Movie took place on April 6, 1917, which was actually the day that the Americans entered the war. Thought that was interesting. And I think I actually watched it on April 6th. Did I watch it on April 6th? No. You fucking idiot. I watched it on April 4th. But still, it felt like I was there. It's directed by Sam Mendes, and it's based on his grandfather's. Is it grandfather or great grandfather? I don't know. His grandfather was in the war, and he was also like kind of a messenger who was tasked with taking important messages here to there. And so his grandfather came out with a book, a memoir, and so a lot of this was influenced by that book. So Mendes, I typically get Sam Mendes confused with Sam Esmail. So forgive me. Sam Esmail is the creator and writer of Mr. Robot, which I just finished, which I gave myself some time to stew it over and think about it, and I did like how they ended this season in the series. It went out. It didn't go out with a bang. I'll say that if you haven't seen it yet. I know I'm 4 months late because the finale was like Christmas time, but I'll get into that maybe next week. Sam Mendes was the director of Spectre, Skyfall, Revolutionary Road, Jarhead, Road to Perdition, and American Beauty, which I've seen all of those except Revolutionary Road, which I downloaded for my commute, which doesn't exist anymore. By the way, I mailed my New Jersey Transit monthly bus pass back definitely before April 5th. Not a peep from the transit. Instead, they sent me a special message email video with that shows NJ Transit workers smiling. that's the first time in my fucking 15, 16 years of commuting I've seen a New Jersey Transit employee smile at me. Ay. But, it's my face. I got a bad face. I know it. I get it. Have I seen Spectre? Maybe I haven't seen Spectre. Might be. Jarhead, though. Highly underrated military movie. I guess you could call it a war movie. I saw that with my ex. Came out. The Jesus Walk song was blowing the F up, and I think that's a major reason why I wanted to see it, because that was in the trailer, Jesus Walks. And Kanye, shout out. We got some On the Border. It was the balls. I also had surgery on my shoulder at the time, so I was probably on some pain meds. Holla at you, boy. American Beauty, which, American Beauty, I had it on DVD. It actually got stolen from my fraternity house, my room on the third floor. And I used to watch that probably on the daily. I'm not sure why. Because looking back on it now, it's just problematic, which I'm not a big fan of that word, but there's no other way to describe it. It was also co-written. So the 1970 was also co-written by Christy Wilson Cams Carnes. Wow, my eyesight is gone, dude. She was a staff writer on Penny Dreadful, a show I have not watched. The critics' consensus from Rotten Tomatoes is that 1917 is a hard-hitting, immersive, and an impressive technical achievement, capturing the trench warfare of World War I with raw, startling immediacy. 89% of critics gave it a favorable review with an average rating of 8.36 out of 10, while 88% of audiences gave it a favorable review with a 4.4 out of 5 average rating. Racked up 159 mil domestically and 208 mil internationally for a 360 mil worldwide take. It was top 3 at the box office for a full month, which is pretty damn impressive, and was in the top 10 from January 10th through early March. So it had a pretty decent run. Like I said, it was inspired by Mendes' grandfather's experiences in World War I. It was dedicated to his grandfather, who was a lance corporal in the King's Royal Rifle Corps during the Great War. I don't know about that. Despite the apparently continuous shot, broken only by one interval of unconsciousness, and if you watch the movie, you know which moment you're talking about there. There was actually dozens of invisible edits concealed by transitions through black moves behind objects, so on and so forth. According to Mendes, the shortest unbroken shot was 39 seconds long, while the longest single continuous shot was 8.5 minutes long. So, and I think that kind of was distracting at first. The movie kind of got off to a slow start, for me at least, or I don't know. I felt like maybe I was a little distracted by the continuous shot, and I was trying to look for edits or something like that. And instead of just focusing in on the storyline and on the characters and on the plot, I didn't settle in and really latch on. The movie didn't get traction with me until, spoiler alert, you know what I'm talking about. So it took a while for me to get invested, which was interesting because I was really into, they take you into the trenches. I mean, the camera is either following them from behind or is in front of them, and they're walking, towards the camera as the camera is coming back. And to see the trenches and to see what's going on in the trenches, there's wounded bodies, there's some dead bodies, there's some dudes just smoking cigs, there's some dudes ripping from the flask, smoking some whisk or some burb. And so that was cool. I liked that. I appreciated that, but it took me a little bit for me to get invested. And I think it was when the German crashed the plane. So you probably saw in the award shows or trailers or TV spots when they show, it's one of the most impressive shots. They show the enemy plane in the distance and then making a turn to the right and then coming right at them and then them running away and it crashing behind them. So that was a very pivotal scene in the movie. And that's basically when I was all right, I'm all in. I think I like this movie, and I think I like where it's going. There are several times in the movie where you can see the soldiers drinking alcohol. Speaking of the booze, it's from IMDb trivia. Alcohol rations of 2.5 fluid ounces were a common practice during World War I. Twice per week for soldiers behind the front lines, daily for those on the front lines, and frequently double rations were going over the top. 2.5 fluid ounces, though, is like, unless my math is off, I'm not a big math guy, but 2.5 fluid ounces is like, what, 2 shots? Like more, big shot, as we like to call it in the dirty South. I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about at this point. But yeah, 2.5 fluid ounces, that is, I mean, you're sending me to war, I'm going to need a lot more than 2.5 fluid ounces, my dude. Especially if I'm going over the top, which I guess 5 fluid ounces, that's maybe 3 shots. Yeah, it's, I guess that, I mean, I probably had 3 shots watching half this movie. I'd probably get through like 6 shots in the movie, 3 shots in the movie. I'm getting, as I get up in those in years, as I age, I can't knock them back as quick and as fast as I'd like. But yeah, I need more than that if I'm going over the top, my man. Well, maybe not. 3 shots? Like back to back to back? What are we talking about here? All right, so now we're going to start diving into spoilers. I'll say this. I mean, you should if you're into war movies, like my wife is into war movies, and I'm into war movies, I guess, a little bit, not as much as her, but you'll like this movie. I mean, it's beautifully shot. Some of the most like breathtaking cinematography I've seen in a long time. Me, in my mind, the way it works, not good. Like, I get caught up in logistics. Sometimes it's really hard to suspend my disbelief, and that's coming from a guy who loves comic book movies and superhero movies. So, as I'm watching this, I'm like, wait, so the general said that it would take them 6 to 8 hours, but this movie's not going to be 6 to 8 hours. So what? And you can see that that's the trick, I guess, a trick of the trade. There is a sequence where, like, Schofield, one of the 2 soldiers who's on this mission to get the message to the infantry that's about to go on the attack and get snook, where it's like, it's nighttime and it's the dead of night, and he comes across, he like sees an enemy soldier who comes running at him, shoots him, so he runs away. He ducks into this like basement type dwelling with a woman and a baby, not her baby. And so he hangs out there for a little bit, and then he comes out and he's trying to sneak around as like flares are going off to highlight where he is. And so he's running away, and they catch on to him. And as he's running away, you can see like it's now like morning. It's just like, how long has he been running? Like I feel like I'm watching him for like 10 seconds, and all of a sudden we've gone from night to day. And so they did that on occasion with the movie, and it kind of fucks with you a little bit, at least with me, where I'm like, whoa, it was just night, and now he's running, and now he's jumping into a river, and it's day, and it's like morning, it's dawn. And it's like, it usually takes a little bit longer than that for the sun to get out of bed. But that scene where he's in the river, and he gets to the end and he has to climb over all those dead bodies. Oh, bro. Oh my God. Yo. I'm so glad they don't have smell-o-vision yet. I'm out on smell-o-vision. I don't think anyone is in on smell-o-vision. I'm all for that 4D experience, dude, but smells, I'm out on smells. But how about that? He like climbs over the dead bodies, climbs ashore, and he just like waltzes into the infantry that he's supposed to give the message to, and just takes a seat and leans on a tree and listens to the dude sing, and no one turns around and is like, what if that is a fucking German? And then they're all the song ends, the singer stops, And the troop kind of turns around and like, oh, hey, mate, who are you? And it's just like, this is the worst army ever. You guys deserve to die. No wonder they got to send like 2 messenger boys to give you the heads up because you guys are dumb. I don't know. It's not fair, probably, for me to say. But yeah, like for them to not hear someone approaching and then also to think like, just to assume, oh yeah, it's probably a friendly. Interesting. I don't know. Definitely overthink that. But anyway, the river scene where he crawls over the dead bodies. Sam Mendes, the director, describes that this was meant to remind the audience of the. I mean, this is a stretch. Like Sam Mendes thinks highly of his audience. I'll just say that. Describes this was meant to remind the audience of the mythical river Styx bordering hell. I mean, I've heard of the band Styx. Didn't know that was named after a river in hell. God, makes that band even cooler now. I just thought it was like a cool way to spell Styx, Disticks. So mythical river Styx bordering hell, especially as the scene evolves and lone hero Schofield is soon led to safety as he follows the ethereal solo voice of a singing comrade. The narrative seems to shift from a tone of naturalism to one of epic myth. I didn't pick up on that, but I think the fact that I've gravitated to that scene, okay, makes sense. It did feel that's to me was the most memorable scene in the movie. So the plane crashing with the German plane crashing, the river dead bodies, him going and then stumbling upon the infantry with the singing dude. And then the Schofield having to fucking bust ass like a quarter mile, just straight sprint to find the I guess the man in charge, commanding officer commanding officer, to get him the note. He has to ask like 5 different people, and they're all like, he's down the line. And just trying his damnedest to get to this fucking commanding officer and be like, yo, do not attack. Everyone that you send over the top, to attack is gonna get. And of course he's late, and so he's trying to, as the men are like going over the top and rushing and bombarding, he's like sprinting kind of like a salmon upstream or something like that, and across, I guess, perpendicular to them, and he gets taken out like once, twice, and it looks so real because it is real. It wasn't meant to happen. He wasn't supposed to get knocked over multiple times, but it was not in the script, but it happened accidentally, and they kept it in. And obviously I'm glad they did, because it's one of the most memorable scenes, because it just goes to show like it's just straight up chaos. And then you get the old cameo from Benedict Cumberbatch. So you had Colin Firth at the beginning of the movie, and then you get Cumberbatch at the end acting like a hardo, being like, nah, dude, I don't care what your general says. Like, this is not happening. And then Schofield has to convince him. The beginning and the end are bookends, which I thought were cool, where we open with the 2 soldiers, the one sitting up against the tree, the other one laying on his back, eyes closed, looking up. And then it ends with the one soldier leaning against a tree. And then, obviously the one soldier's story ends with him flat on his back, eyes closed. But the funny part about him sitting at the tree to end the movie, an extra on the film said, I can't help but laugh at the final shot at the tree. About 100 extras used that tree to urinate on as the toilets were so far away. We had no idea that the ending would take place with the main actor sitting under it. Who knows if that shit's true, but I think that's funny. That's probably why he has such a pained expression on his face, because probably the stench of urine is just all up in his nostrils. Whew. So I don't know. How would I rate this? I'd probably be right there. with critics in the audience. A little 4 out of 5, a little 8 out of 10. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. But I did say to my wife, like, if you didn't have this continuous shot, if it was just shot normally, edited normally, are we like, is it getting nominated for awards? Is it getting recognized? Does it do as well as the box office? Does it get that kind of buzz around it if it doesn't have this kind of production, this style of shooting? Probably not. But I mean, you could say that about a bunch of movies. So, whatever, kid. All right, let's talk about Bombshell. Rated R, hour 49, biography drama, came out a little bit before Christmas, The Mass of Christ. It's directed by Jay Roach, which is kind of interesting. You know, you have all these like directors or people that are known for their comedic exploits that are delving into serious issues and pulling it off. Jay Roach, you might remember he directed the Austin Powers trilogy, Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers. It was written by Charles Randolph, who wrote The Big Short, which makes a lot of sense, and Love and Other Drugs, a movie that I actually was really, really into in like 2011. I don't know why. It was just like if it was on and I was drunk, I was watching it and I was getting weepy because it'll jerk them tears right out your face. Jake Gyllenhaal and Anna Kendrick. Nope. Maria. Nope. Anne Hathaway. Jesus Christ, Neal. Bombshell stars Charlize Theron, who, I mean, doesn't even look like Charlize Theron in this movie. I mean, they did an amazing job. My wife said it was just makeup and hair, which I don't believe, but they made her look like Megyn Kelly. I did not think I was watching Charlize Theron. Nicole Kidman is Gretchen Carlson, who gives a great performance. Margot Robbie is Kayla Pospisil, who is actually not a real person, but is kind of, they said, like an amalgamation of a bunch of women who did work there and like basically all their stories of their experiences working at Fox News with Roger Ailes. Speaking of, John Lithgow was Roger Ailes, and they, I guess it was prosthetics and makeup and whatnot. But I'm sure he was like, oh, yes, I get to play a fat person. Hell yeah. Time to eat up. That's my dream, is to go the Christian Bale route and just be like, all right, you're going to pay me to get into like amazing shape. Sweet. And now you're going to pay me to gain like 50 pounds of fat. Awesome. Just like Mac from Always Sunny. That must be so nice. Like, that's your job. Either get in shape or get fat. Done. Allison Janney is Susan Estrich. Malcolm McDowell is Rupert Murdoch. Kate McKinnon is in this movie as Jess Carr, which I didn't, when she came on screen, I was like, whoa, because I did not expect that. She plays like a lesbian Hillary Clinton supporter who works at Fox News, which I thought was interesting. Connie Britton is Beth Ailes. It was just like just such a phenomenal, like, blinders on wife who's just not an enabler, but just like complete denial. And then Rob Delaney, yeah, he was in this as Gil Norman, who was kind of I guess the antagonist in certain respects who was like helping, or was the foil for Charlize Theron. And Mark Duplass, so the Duplass brothers, you might remember him from The League. He plays Doug Brunt, who is Megyn Kelly's husband, who gives a pretty good performance. The critics' consensus from Rotten Tomatoes is Bombshell benefits from a terrific cast and a worthy subject, but its impact is muffled by a frustrating inability to go deeper than the sensationalistic surface. Yeah, I guess you could say that. It was tough to see. It was tough to, I don't want to say it was tough to follow the story. I don't want to say that. It was not tough to follow the story. It was tough to see where they wanted you to go with the story. You know, it's like, it felt like, oh, is this Megyn Kelly's story? Is this Gretchen Carlson's story? Is this Margot Robbie's story? And I understand it's like, you know, it's an ensemble cast. It's about stories coming together and melding and whatnot. But it didn't have that feel. It was like it wanted you to think like, oh, and for a while it was like, oh, this is Megyn Kelly's story. Or at least she's driving the narrative where it doesn't feel like three separate stories that are coming together. I don't know. 70% of critics gave it a favorable rating of 6.72 out of 10. 84% of the audiences liked it. 4.14 out of 5 average rating. I'd split that between 70 and 84. So it's 154 divided by 2. I'm gonna carry that one. So I'd say 77. Is that right? Maybe, I don't know. 31.7 mil domestically. At the box office, 27.8 mil internationally for a worldwide take of less than 60 mil, which, yeah, I mean, we all know and love Fox News, fair and balanced here in the States, but I don't know that it's really going to translate internationally. There are just so many characters and personalities that we have gravitated towards or that we know here in the U.S. that it just, I can't imagine where this would do well. I mean, the UK, Australia, I don't know. Tough, but it barely cracked the top 10 for 3 weeks around Christmas, and it was out of theaters by the end of February. So not a great run at the box office. I mean, the one scene that sticks out to me is the scene with Margot Robbie as Kayla Pospisil, where she gets to meet Roger Ailes. Is it for the first time? Yeah, for the first time. And he has her get up and do a little twirl, and you're like, all right, yeah. And then I'm sorry that I'm laughing, but it's just such a ugh. It reminds me of, I think Lithgow was in whatever the fuck that movie was, where, was it The Burbs? Or it was something like The Burbs. It was with a family, but they were all cretins. It was the fucked up version of the Addams Family, and I think Dan Aykroyd was in it. John Lithgow's Roger Ailes reminds me of the Dan Aykroyd old fat gross character from that movie in the 80s, where it's people think that the family that lives here, they basically murder people and eat them. Like a family of cannibals. I always think it's The Burbs, but it's not The Burbs. I don't think. Anyway, that's what he reminds me of. And he's just telling her to lift her skirt up more and more, which she was already wearing a pretty revealing skirt. If she was at my Catholic high school where I went, there would be nuns with rulers, 1 inch rule, you broke it, detention, Saturday. But he's telling her to hike it up more and more. And so she hikes up more and more, and you can just see her panties. And he's just really breathing. I think I know I shouldn't laugh at this because I guess it really did happen to women, and that's stinks. It's unfortunate, but just watching him his big fat gross body and him heavy panting. And I think he might have jizzed himself. I think he just wet dreamed himself in real life. He just didn't even have to touch anything. It just popped off right in his pants. And that traumatized that woman for life, unfortunately. The scene of Roger Ailes asking Kayla to lift up her skirt is from IMDb trivia. That scene was filmed with multiple cameras capturing all angles at once because Jay Roach didn't want Margot Robbie needing to perform that scene for more than one take. Yeah. Kudos to Jay Roach. Margot Robbie revealed that her character scenes in the office of Fox News chairman and CEO Roger Ailes, played by John Lithgow, was some of the most uncomfortable to film. Yeah. Even though you as an actress know that's John Lithgow, and he's probably super not into doing this creepy thing. Although, I don't know. I'm not going to go there. But, yeah, I can imagine that being uncomfortable. This is this big, fat, old, gross dude. Ugh. It's just heavy panting. So heavy panting. Yeah, so that's Bombshell. I don't have a super long review for that one. It was enjoyable, I guess. I think I was expecting more from the Margot Robbie storyline, but I guess because it's just like an amalgamation or combination of a bunch of people, real life people, as opposed to just one, that's why they couldn't really give it the flesh, I guess. Bad choice of words right there. Bad choice of words. But they couldn't give it the gravitas, I don't know, that it deserved. Because I feel like that, to me, might have been the most appealing or entertaining, because it was someone who started, it was almost like not A Star Is Born, but that classic Hollywood tale of like, person from Bumpkin, Iowa or something like that, the sticks, like Nebraska or whatever, like goes to Hollywood looking to make it big, blah, blah. Margot Robbie comes from this conservative family who's always looked up to Fox News and worshiped to the people on there and has loved everything that they stand for and blah, blah. And then she gets into it and realizes, whatever. Megyn Kelly, though, ooh. And Gretchen Carlson. I mean, like, I can't imagine. Like, I get like fucking triggered when one person shits on me online. Like when the Alex Torres dude like told me to quit life after one of the videos where I was just like had an itchy nose. Shit happens. It was just like, yeah, maybe I should just delete everything I have of me online. After one person leaves a shitty comment. Yeah. So I can't imagine being Megyn Kelly and it's like you're just getting like all kinds of death threats and hate mail and whatever and cyber bullied. And then you go to your boss, and your boss is like, no, this is great. We love it. Keep it up. It's like, yeah. And then Gretchen Carlson, that was just like, I don't know your audience. Like the Fox News audience, why would, I don't know, why would any of them, I applaud her for wanting to do those sorts of things, but it's like, you got to know that no one's going to buy into that. Not on that station. So, I'm curious to think what my mom thinks, because my mom is like diehard Fox News. So she probably hates that movie. It's just like, yeah, well, it's just a bunch of Hollywood bullshit and a bunch of fucking liberals. So that's Bombshell. Midsommar. This is rated R, 2.5 hours long. God. It's a drama horror mystery. Came out day before Independence Day, July 3rd, 2019. It was written and directed by Ari Aster, who also wrote and directed Hereditary, which, after watching this movie, I don't know if I can do it. But I will. I should. I really should. Face your fears. You know what I'm saying? Face your fears. It stars Florence Pugh, who, if you're not familiar with the name, she played the wrestler Paige in Fighting With My Family, which I don't know if did I fucking review that for this goddamn pod, this show? I don't think I did, but she did an amazing job as Paige in Fighting With My Family, which is a underrated comedy, quote unquote. The Rock makes a cameo. She's also in Little Women, which my wife just watched and was not impressed with. And she will be in Black Widow whenever the hell that comes out. And it also stars Chidi from The Good Place. Don't know the guy's real name. Sorry. But, and Chidi plays like a very Chidi-esque person in this movie. The critics' consensus from Rotten Tomatoes is that it's ambitious, impressively crafted, and above all, unsettling. Yeah. Midsommar further proves writer-director Ari Aster is a horror auteur to be reckoned with. 83% of critics gave it a favorable review with a 7.55 out of 10 average rating. 63% of the audience gave it a favorable rating with a 3.43 out of 5. I would, again, split the difference. I think I wouldn't go as high as 83. I would go closer to the critics than the audience. Give it the benefit of the doubt. I think if 2.5 is too long. And I think it got super slow in a lot of parts, and it lost a lot of people. I know the people I was watching with had probably lost them during the first half because it's slow, but it's setting things up. You know, there are little things setting up that have payoffs in the second half. But if I don't know, are people going to stick around for the second half if you lose them in the first half? Great question. I do, because I like to. It takes a lot for me to just like check out and be like, no, fuck this. There's very few movies where either I'm just in an incredibly bad mood or I don't know. But usually I'll try to stick it out. So I'd say, what was that, 83, 63, 20 to 10? Yeah, it's around 73. I would probably give it. Pulled in 27.4 million domestically, 19.5 million domestically or internationally for a worldwide haul of 46.8 mil. Creeped into the top 10 for a couple weeks around 4th of July and hung around until the end of September, which is pretty impressive considering, it doesn't have any big names attached to it. And I think even though Hereditary was very wild, I don't want to say wildly successful, but was kind of a huge feature debut for Ari Aster. I think people overhyped this movie a little bit. I mean, I was like, man, I need to be like on sedatives to watch this movie. I need to be very drunk on drugs. I had to be like chemically altered to absorb this movie into my eyeballs. And I made it through all right. I don't think I had a night terror, which is impressive. But it was originally given an NC-17 rating by the MPAA. So around 30 minutes were cut from the final film due to content. I mean, 3 hours of this shit, 2.5 was like my limit, I think. I mean, that last 25 to 30 minutes, and I think they said that neither main character, either Florence Pugh's character or her boyfriend, said one line of dialogue in the final like 25 to 30 minutes of the movie, and that wasn't even the slow part. Like that was I do agree though. This is the kind of movie that I think you had to take LSD, acid, or mushrooms to really be like, whoa. I think if you're drunk like I was, it was just kind of like, I feel a little uneasy. I can't imagine 3 hours though. I guess if I smoked up or if I did some kind of mind altering drug, maybe I'd think more highly of this movie and I'd like see, because a major aspect of it is that there are a lot of hallucinogens that they're on during the movie. And so like there's when they first take, I guess, acid or mushrooms or something like that. And when they first get there, and she sees like the grass growing through her hand, or even at the end of the movie where like, it feels like everything is just moving with her and breathing as if she's part of it or it's part of her. It's like, I think that would have had I would have been like way more affected by it if I was actually on the drug that she was on. I mean, what a way to kick off the movie, huh? What an opening scene. Danny, who's the girl played by Florence Pugh, finds out that her sister has killed her family in a murder-suicide. All right. In the most like bizarre way possible, where like the parents apparently were asleep. And so she just runs 2 long ass garden hoses from the exhaust pipes in the cars in the garage, turns on the cars in the garage, runs them into the bathroom, is like fucking tapes the garden hose to her mouth and does the same or does something similar for the parents. It's just like, ooh. And then you have that imagery throughout the movie from that point on. I guess it's some scenes in the movie, like you can see her sister. Well, you can blatantly see her sister attached to a hose in like a couple scenes, but the other scenes where she's more hidden and subtle in the scenery. Oh man, it's such a fucked up movie. When Josh sneaks away. So Josh is played by Chidi. When he sneaks away to photograph pictures of the Ruby Radar holy book, he thinks that he sees Mark standing on the doorway of the temple. It is, in fact, Ulf, the man who screamed at Mark, who's played by the kid from We're the Millers. So you remember We're the Millers with Jennifer Aniston and Jason Sudeikis, the goofy, nerdy, dorky boy that they bring along to act as the son. That's Mark. So we're getting into spoilers now. Yeah, this is all spoilers. So hopefully you're not looking for a non-spoiler review. I mean, I would say non-spoiler review, a little slow, but if you can stomach it, get your hands on some serious, some good mushrooms, which I don't know who you talk to about that. Mario, Luigi, I don't know. Peach, Toadstool, Bowser, maybe, I don't know. Yoshi. Someone's got to have mushrooms. And maybe that's the route to go. Time it right, and maybe time it like you take it when they take it in the movie, and then just enjoy the ride. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's just a mind fuck of a movie. You know, has it been a while since your mind's gotten laid? Then throw it on. Spoiler review. Here we go. So when Josh goes to photograph pictures of the Ruby Raider holy book, he thinks he sees Mark, kid from We're the Millers, standing in the doorway of the temple. It is in fact Ulf, the man who screamed at Mark for urinating on the ancestral tree, wearing Mark's skin. And this is confirmed by the screenplay. Earlier, Mark had asked Josh if he thought that Ulf was going to kill him for urinating on the tree. But that's exactly what happens. So there's this other couple that's not part of the friend group. So Josh and Mark, and who's the other guy? There's Danny, and then Danny's boyfriend Christian, and then the fucking Swedish dude that brought them all there. I forget what his name is. So they're all together as a friend group. But then there's also Simon and his lady friend. I guess they got engaged. They disappear, and everyone's like, where'd they go? And the Swedes are like, yeah, so I think they took a truck, but they couldn't go together. There's no room in the truck, so they're going to go separately. It's fine. It's like, imagine being that homicidal and sociopathic that you can just like slough off obvious disappearances. People are just MIA left and right, and you're just like, yeah, he went for like a swim or something. It's cool. It's just like, okay. Anyway, Simon, big tall guy who's engaged, his fate is, according to IMDb trivia, is based on a Viking ritualized execution method called Blood Eagle, in which victims were placed in a prone position, their ribs severed from the spine with a sharp tool, and their lungs pulled through. I can't even read this. The lungs pulled through the opening to create a pair of wings. The victim would supposedly still be alive and conscious through the process. How? I don't even know. And not die until sometime after, usually from blood loss, which that's, yeah. So that was interesting. Throughout the film, Danny hallucinates that plant life interacting with her and growing into her. This foreshadows her eventual decision to join the community at the end of the film. Which I guess, you know, if your sister offs your parents in a murder-suicide, it's kind of like, and your boyfriend stinks. And then you have this group of people being like, you're a queen. You're like, you know what? I'm going to hang around for like maybe a couple more days, see how this plays out. They now worship me. Yeah. Just roll the dice on this one. So Connie is Simon's fiance. Her corpse is being wheeled in a barrow into the shrine with all the others. Appears to be wet and bloated. This insinuates the villagers drowned her in a nearby lake after they had killed Simon. Cool. Yeah, so a lot of the murders or whatever are not on screen. It's kind of like they want you to kind of buy into the fact that people are just losing their minds and they're just getting too paranoid. And that this really is just a a nice cult where they send their senior citizens who have eclipsed the age of 72 off a fucking cliff. Can we think of a better way to like pay homage to our elders instead of being like, yeah, we're just gonna have you step off this cliff real quick, and if you don't die from the impact of falling off a cliff, we'll have a bunch of people with humongous Donkey Kong hammers, mallets that would make Gallagher jealous, and just crush your skull. No big deal. Got to think of a better way to send off your elders than that. Dear God. Whatever happened to just peacefully going off in your sleep? No thanks. During the meal where the meat pies are served, meat pie. Christian, who is Danny's boyfriend, has a glass of reddish juice while everyone else has yellow juice. An image earlier in the film suggests that this may be because his drink has been spiked with menstrual blood. So, ladies, if you're thinking about, how do I get through to my crush? How do I let him know that I am D and then also T and a little bit F? Menstrual blood in his drink. And it's funny because he's like, that's how, and it's so on par with the Christian character, is that he doesn't even fucking take a look, and he's just oblivious to, he's so in his own world that he's so oblivious to the fact that everyone else has the yellow juice or orange juice and his is like fucking pink red. Like, come on, guy. And he has to like actually drink it for him to notice, like, no, something's off here. And then of course there's the pubic hair and the pie, the meat pie, which, and this is what I find to be a great staple of good movies. They don't have to be great movies, but good movies. And I can think of like Black Swan, even like Frozen 2, which I've watched ad nauseum. They actually tell you in their own subtle way, or they show you like what is going to happen. Did I say Black Swan? Black Swan is another one. They show you what's going to happen, but it's in such a subtle, discreet way that it doesn't even register with you. But they essentially, like when they are first get to the site, the campgrounds or whatever you want to call it, where the community lives, the commune, and they have like clotheslines with the clothes hanging on them. There's like this big like tapestry or quilted piece, and there's like 4 or 5 panels, and they literally show you each panel. You're looking at it, you're like, that's weird. Well, that's weird. That's weird. And then every single one of those panels comes true by the end of the movie. It's just little stuff like that. It just lets you know that it was made with care. The fucking filmmaker cared. And that's been my goal with my screenplays, is like, I'm just going to fucking like little things here and there, and maybe no one picks up on it, and I'm the only one who knows about the real story behind it or what lies beneath. Harrison Ford, shout out, Michelle Pfeiffer. But yeah, that's my goal. Is like, I want to, as soon as I saw that Room 237 documentary about Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, I was just like, the level of thought that went into this friggin' movie. And some of it is not even probably intentional, that other people are like, yep, that means that. So I'm a big fan of that. So I appreciate him doing that. Ari Aster. Danny's name, so Florence Pugh's character Danny, her surname is Ardor, which is a noun meaning a zealous or excited transitory state. Which, yeah, she gets in, full-fledged when she wins that friggin' competition where they're all dancing around. They take that drug and they're all dancing around the friggin' thing, which it's like human tetherball almost. By the way, how bad? Like, step up, commune. All these chicks have been on the fucking camp or the farm for all these years. They grew up there, and they lose to this fucking newcomer day 3. Jesus. Amazing. And Christian who plots to write a thesis about Hagar's pagan cult. Ironically, he ends up dead in the final ritual, being the Christian killed by the pagan. So I thought that was clever. Oh man. But the climax, I would say the climax of the film. First of all, there's a rape, and I didn't identify as a rape, and that's how like out of touch I am. Is like when Christian is like led into that building, where like the chick who I think is of age is just laying there on like a bed of hay, and she's surrounded by a bunch of naked women from the commune, and they're all like, "Yeah, come on." And so I guess he's also drugged up or something, and so he just lays down with her and has sex. And I thought he had sex with her. I'm like, all right, this is an invitation. This seems pretty consensual. And I remember reading in IMDb trivia during the attempted rape, and I was like, or during the rape scene, I was like, what rape scene? And then my wife was like, yeah, the rape scene. And I was like, what was about that was a rape? I'm throwing out the R word a lot, and I apologize. But what about that made you think that it was non-consensual? And she's like, well, when she reaches back up for, I guess, her mother, because her mother is like part of that squad that's just standing around watching. And so the mother comes and like comforts her during it. And I guess that's rape. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, can't imagine how many times that people have had sex and then one of the partners is like, you know what? I don't want to be part of this, but I'm going to keep going. Like, I've been on the wrong end of that probably a handful of times. Not good at intercourse. So yeah, there's that. And then, so there was that scene, which was just like, felt very Ninth Gate-ish. Johnny Depp, shout out. But then the scene, so then they paralyze him, right? They stick him so that he's paralyzed, can't move, can't talk. And they wheel him out to this like little stage area in the middle of the field. And Danny's there, and she is full on decked out, floral crown, plant life, very sustainable queen's gown, I guess. Just like a very impressive, beautiful, like grass, flower, floral dress. And she's on her throne. And they're like, yeah, so we got to do these sacrifices. We're going to pick two people. We'll pick one person from the commune, and then you can pick someone not from the commune. And like Christian is like in the running. And so Christian can't like move or say anything, but you can just see in his eyes, he's just like, I am fucked. Because Danny ran in on him in the barn or wherever he was, apparently raping that woman. The same woman who like put a pubic hair in his meat pie and threw menstrual blood in his drink. I don't know. And he's just like, well, my girlfriend, we've been like at each other's throats and fighting this entire time. I forgot her goddamn birthday, which is outrageous. And they didn't kiss once in the movie. So there's an alternate cut where they do kiss. And it's like, I would love to see what that kiss looked like. Probably not a lot of pash in that kiss. So they don't kiss at all. And I was like, this is not going to end well. Can't believe it reminds me of that Dane Cook bit where he's like, yeah, I'll give this another 4 or 5 years and then end this horribly. He's got my CDs in his truck, Kim. All my CDs in his truck. I don't know. I think Dane Cook's funny, dude. Or at least they're like from 2000 to 2006. Pretty good stuff. Yeah, so that scene where like she has to decide, and she's just like, yeah, Christian, you're going down, bro. And so they put him in that fucking bear suit. And then you see Chidi's all like halved. Mark is like literally just like, I guess his skin suit is just there. And then there's the two dudes from the commune, and they give him this stuff like, and they give him a little saying like, fear and scream, whatever. And they're just like, yeah, of course. Yeah, that all makes sense. Let's just do this thing. And then the moment they realize, oh, I've made a humongous mistake, like that verbal meme, Job from Arrested Development. I mean, the symbolism in this movie is just laid on pretty thick. I mean, it's just like every single shot, they've included something that is either foreshadowing or symbolic of what's about to happen. So, I mean, Ari Aster's got a very lucrative career ahead of him. Just gotta tighten it up. So I recommend it. Just get your hands on some drugs. So that's Midsommar. I definitely want to see Hereditary now, and I think Hereditary will probably, without knowing any of the ratings or anything like that, without knowing anything else, I think Hereditary I would maybe like more or just be scared more. This one was a little slow, and then it was just kind of like, ugh. Just gross. All right. That's Midsommar. Let's talk about Jumanji: The Next Level. PG-13, a little over 2 hours, action adventure comedy. Came out December 13th. It's directed by Jake Kasdan, who did the first one, Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. He also directed Sex Tape, a few episodes of New Girl, Bad Teacher. So I think him and Cameron Diaz have like a good working relationship. I don't know. Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, which is one of the most underrated comedies, one of my favorites. Tim Meadows in that movie cracks me up. You don't want any part of this shit, Dewey, or I'll fuck you up. Orange County, which is my wife's favorite movie of all time, and a couple episodes of Freaks and Geeks. So I mean, that's just like, yeah, that's a pretty nice resume. Sex Tape and Bad Teacher with Cameron Diaz. Interesting. It's co-written by Jeff Pinkner, who wrote The Dark Tower, which did not do well. The Fifth Wave, which is a very young adult sci-fi type of fantasy that I got a couple laughs out of. It wasn't a comedy, but I enjoyed its kind of B-movie-esque level of dialogue and storytelling. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I was out from day one on that. I couldn't get into it. Venom, which I did like, not a lot, but I liked how it went in a different path than most superhero movies. And it was also co-written by Scott Rosenberg, who wrote Gone in 60 Seconds, High Fidelity, and Con Air. Yo, that's a pretty good lineup right there. So Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson returns as Bravestone, Kevin Hart as Mouse, Jack Black as Oberon, Karen Gillan as Ruby, Awkwafina is in this one as Ming, Nick Jonas returns as Seaplane, and then you have the youngins, Alex Wolff as Spencer, Morgan Turner as Martha, Madison Iverson as Bethany, Sedarius Blaine as Fridge, Danny DeVito as Eddie, and Danny Glover as Milo. Rhys Darby returns as Nigel. Colin Hanks returns as Alex. And then you have Rory McCann as Jurgen the Brutal. Rory McCann is the Hound? Yeah, the Hound from Game of Thrones, the Mountain's brother, with the burnt-ass face. Critics' consensus for Rotten Tomatoes. Like many classic games, Jumanji: The Next Level retains core components of what came before while adding enough fresh bits to keep things playable. I was going to say palpable, and I was like, either way, it plays. 71% of critics gave it a favorable review, a 6.03 out of 10 average rating. 87% of the audience gave it a favorable review with 4.29 out of 5. I would go closer on the audience side. I wouldn't go as high as 87. So it was at 159 divided by 2. Yeah, I'd give it probably 80. Higher than an 80. I wouldn't go lower than an 80 on this one. Domestically, it pulled in $316.8 million. Internationally, $479.7 million for a worldwide take of almost 800 million goddamn dollars. Opened number 1 in mid-December and didn't leave the top 10 until late February and was still in some theaters as of like 2 or 3 weeks ago. The film expands on the world of Jumanji as the characters go beyond the game's jungle environment and go into like the desert and the snowy mountain landscape, which is I thought it was kind of reminiscent of Inception a little bit. Because you remember in Inception, the final level, the deepest sleep state or whatever the hell they were calling it, was the compound, remote compound that was like in a snow environment in the mountains. I will say it was tough taking, because at first when they entered the game, Danny DeVito, the Spencer's grandfather, Eddie, the Rock is in the Rock's body, Bravestone's body, and the Rock does not do a good impression of Danny DeVito at all. And they end up, like, throughout the movie, they end up switching, bodies, personalities, whatever. And when Awkwafina, when she's the avatar embodied by Eddie, Danny DeVito, she does a much better job. So I think they realized they must have gotten like halfway through filming. They're like, this is not working out. We need to go back to our original personalities. I did enjoy Kevin Hart trying to do Danny Glover. I did like that, because Kevin Hart's kind of like this generation's popular personality, and Danny Glover was like the popular from the Lethal Weapon years, the late 80s, early 90s, Predator 2. So I thought that worked. Just The Rock as fucking Eddie did not work at all. I did, for the brief amount of time where, so I guess does it be Bethany? No, it's not Bethany. When Fridge and Martha switch bodies. So Martha was Ruby, right? And Fridge was Jack Black. And so they fall in the water, they hop in the water, and they get back out and they switch. And when Fridge was Ruby, I was like, okay, now this is cool, because it's like a dude in like a hot girl's body. What would you do? And like the first words, he's like, you better not touch my boobs. And he's like, I've already touched them like multiple times. Like that was a good line. So I guess I was hoping more for that, but yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. I do like the I guess the like just how fantastical it was. Is that a word? Like the scope, just the grand scale of everything. They really pumped up the volume on everything, like the swinging bridges with the fucking monkeys. I don't know, they're not called monkeys. Baboons, they're not baboons. They're some kind of crazy goddamn primate. Like that was cool. I like that. I like that they end up at some kind of like castle with an airship. It wasn't, I like how they just didn't confine it to just one setting or landscape. Very cool. And spoiler. So non-spoiler is, yeah, I mean, this is, I really do hope that they end up producing a bunch of these, I don't know how much legs it could have. My assumption is, and not to spoil anything, but my assumption is like we're probably going to get we'll definitely get a third. I don't know how you do a fourth. So even though I think the cast works, and I think the concept probably has legs, I don't know that they get to a fourth. So, spoilers. The film connects the Jumanji 1995's Jumanji with Robin Williams as Bebe Neuwirth reprises her role as Nora. You might remember Bebe Neuwirth as Frasier's wife, who was in Cheers and then later in Frasier. The hell was her called? Mona? No. Oh boy. Can't remember. That blows my mind. I used to watch Frasier and Cheers like all the time. Anyway, there's a mid-credits scene in which the animals from Jumanji manifest in the real world. And the original 1995 film, that's the plot. The game brought the dangers of the jungle out of the game into the real world. The reason that Eddie, Milo, and Nora do not recall the events of the original movie is because those events were erased when the game reset the timeline back to the moment when Alan got sucked into the game. So the only characters who would remember those events are Alan and his wife, Sarah. This is similar to how Spencer, Martha, Fridge, and Bethany are the only ones who remember the timeline where Alex was missing for 20 years. Several sources, including the writers and producers, have confirmed that Jürgen the Brutal was not just an NPC, so non-player character, but an avatar for another yet-to-be-revealed player. Ooh. So yeah, I'm jazzed. I'm excited for the third one, even though it seems like it's just going to be a retread of the 1995 movie, but maybe they'll put a nice little unique twist on it. I mean, they can't bring Robin Williams back, but I guess my assumption is they would bring a bunch of people from the first movie back to join forces with everyone in this one. But also, I would think that the avatars, if the animals from the game are real and can enter the real world, then that must mean the avatars can come into the real world as real people. So I think so the second one might have been a minor step back. The first one was really good. I think the second one was good, but maybe a little bit of step back. And then we're going to get a third one that might be better than all of them. I'll put that bold claim out there. Yeah. So that's Jumanji: The Next Level. Let's talk about Richard Jewell really quick. R-rated movie, 2 hours and 11 minutes. Biography, crime drama, came out right around the same time as Jumanji: The Next Level, December 13th. It was directed by Clint Eastwood, who, a laundry list of good old fashioned, good movies. The Mule, which I liked. The 1517 to Paris, which I haven't seen yet. Sully, which I liked. American Sniper, which I liked. Gran Torino, which I liked. $1 Million Baby, which I can't bring myself to watch that one again. It was written by Billy Ray, who I've mentioned his name a couple times in the past. He wrote Terminator: Dark Fate, Gemini Man, Overlord, all of which I believe I've reviewed. Captain Phillips and The Hunger Games. I mean, Jesus Christ, dude. If there's a screenwriting Hall of Fame, Billy Ray's got to be first ballot. Am I right? Paul Walter Hauser plays Richard Jewell. You might remember him. He played Sean Eckert in I, Tonya, and he fucking nailed that role. So I'm wondering where his career goes from here. It's like, how many other famous people can he play? I mean, not to be typecast, but like he's crushing it. Sam Rockwell was awesome as Watson Bryant. Olivia Wilde was wild as Kathy Scruggs. I mean, we haven't seen her. I don't know. Maybe I just haven't watched a lot of her movies lately, but we're getting back to those OC roots. You know what I'm saying? Just wild and free. But yeah, she stepped it up in this movie big time. John Hamm plays the FBI agent Tom Shaw. Total dick. Not as dickish as he was in Bridesmaids, but like on that level. Somewhat on that level. Kathy Bates does a great job as Richard Jewell's mom, Bobby. The critics' consensus from Rotten Tomatoes is that Richard Jewell simplifies the real-life events that inspired it, yet still proves that Clint Eastwood remains a skilled filmmaker of admirable economy. Okay. 76% of critics gave it a thumbs up with 6.8 out of 10 average rating, and then 96% of the audience gave it a thumbs up with a 4.56 out of 5 average rating. I got to split the difference. I think I would put it 86. I'd probably give it 86. Did not do well at the box office. 22.3 domestically, 21.9 internationally, 44.2 worldwide, and it probably, it suffers the same fate as Bombshell, where Richard Jewell was not globally known. He was a United States driven personality who probably didn't make headlines globally, so I can see why internationally just didn't really take off. Plus, the common held belief amongst worldwide is that Americans are fat, stupid, and lazy. So I guess this doesn't really help our cause. Although I wouldn't say Richard Jewell is stupid. I wouldn't call him stupid. Dim-witted? I wouldn't call him dim-witted. Not sharp. In certain respects. I think, he definitely had an ambition to become a law enforcement officer, and he definitely studied the rule book and was for the most part, was on top of his game when it came to rules and laws. But then in other instances, he just it's like he completely forgot or was blinded by the sheer awe of being in the presence of FBI agents. I don't know. Movie opened at number 4 in mid-December and then clung to 10 for a couple of weeks, and then was out of theaters first week in February. So not strong at the box office. In real life, reporter Kathy Scruggs, who was played by Olivia Wilde in the movie, struggled with depression and a reliance on prescription medications. She died of an overdose in 2001. Whoa. They did not mention that in the film. Jonah Hill was originally attached to play Richard Jewell, and he remained on the film as a producer. And Leo DiCaprio was also attached to play the lawyer. Can you imagine this movie if Jonah Hill is Richard Jewell and Leo DiCaprio is fucking Watson Bryant? I can't. I wouldn't be able to keep. I would constantly think about that scene from fucking Wolf of Wall Street where they're like they take the Quaaludes and he tries to get in the Lamborghini. That's all I would think about throughout the entire movie. And I'll be honest, I don't know that Jonah Hill would have done a better job than Paul Walter Hauser. He really nailed it. It's about as close as you're going to get to Richard Jewell, to the real thing. Of course, the weekend that I watched this movie. So Kenny Rogers has a cameo. I guess he has a cameo in the movie. So at the Olympic Park in Atlanta, they have these concerts, and Kenny Rogers performed. And so Richard Jewell's mom ends up going to the concert because she loves Kenny Rogers, blah, blah. And then, of course, I watched the movie, and Kenny Rogers then dies. Literally dies that weekend. So I'm like, oh, well, now I feel guilty. If I hadn't watched the movie, would he still be alive? Wow, Neal. Wow. Yeah, so that's Richard Jewell. I don't have a whole lot about that movie. Other than to say it makes journalists look like goddamn snakes. And it's amazing how easily influenced and persuaded I can be sometimes about certain professions. Like if I see, I see that movie, Richard Jewell, and it makes me think, oh, well, all media, I'm so glad I'm not a journalist because, they are in a lot of ways predatory. But the more successful ones, the ones who get a lot of the acclaim, are willing to go that extra mile to get the story, to get the best story. So it's like, I don't know, if you want to be the best journalist, do you have to bend the rules? Do you have to sensationalize? Do you have to dig deeper? Do you have to, be kind of a little notorious with your ethics? And I just I don't know if I have that in me. I don't think I do. So kind of glad I didn't become a journalist, especially walking through New York Post where I used to work. I see people that have dedicated their life to that profession, and I'm not knocking it. I just not for me. Like just seeing the level, the people that have been there for fucking decades and decades and decades, that have ancient computers. Like they still have computers from like the 70s and 80s. And it's just to dedicate your entire life to that. For what? I don't know. Deep Thoughts by Neal Lynch. That's Richard Jewell. Next up is Train to Busan. This came out in 2016. It was, I guess it's not rated. Okay, cool. It's a little less than 2 hours. Action horror thriller. Came out July 20th, 2016 in South Korea. The critics' consensus from Rotten Tomatoes is that Train to Busan delivers a thrillingly unique and purely entertaining take on the zombie genre with fully realized characters and plenty of social commentary to underscore the bursts of skillfully staged action. 93% of critics gave it a thumbs up with the 7.57 out of 10 average rating, while 88% of the audience liked it, loved it, and gave it a 4.17 out of 5 average rating. I would say, yeah, I'm right there with them both. Again, split the difference. I would say above a 90. I'll go about 90 or above on this one. This was one of those movies where I find out, after I'd seen Parasite, and then all these articles come out, trying to capitalize on Parasite's popularity, not knocking it, got to do what you got to do. But they were saying, here's some other movie. If you like this, you'll like that, which I'm a huge fan of. I think if you're a startup and you're trying to start a platform, if you like this, you'll like this. The whole recommended, like that's what makes Netflix. Shouldn't make Netflix so great. It's what makes YouTube so great. Related titles, suggested titles, everything that would be in your wheelhouse. So, there are a bunch of articles that came out and said, like, if you like Parasite, you'll love. Here's some other South Korean, masterpieces that will, they'll do you right. And Train to Busan did not disappoint. Can't say the same for Okja, coming up in a little bit. But domestically, Train to Busan, 2.1 mil domestically, and then 90.5 mil internationally for a worldwide take of 92.6. Stayed in the top 7 from July through September in South Korea, which is, that's a pretty good run. Holy shit. And it's the 6th highest grossing domestic film of all time in South Korea. Filmmaker Edgar Wright, who directed Shaun of the Dead, one of the best zombie comedies, probably the best zombie comedy of all time, was a huge fan of the film. He recommended the movie in a tweet and called it the best zombie movie I've ever seen in forever. High praise. High praise. On August 7th, the film set a record as the first Korean film of 2016 to break the audience record of over 10 million theater goers. Theater goers? Or goers? You going to go to the theater or are you going to goat at the theater? Yeah, and it's not directed by Bong Joon-ho, but it has the same kind of like cruel twist towards the end. So I'm not going to spoil it for you if you want to watch it. But basically it centers on a workaholic father who's either divorced or going to go through a divorce, who has a daughter. And the daughter is pretty pissed at him, upset with him that he, tends to favor work over her and their family. So she wants to take the train to Busan, where her mother is, I guess, shacked up with her new lover. And the father's like, well, I'm going to go with you. I'll escort you on this ride. And it's really a journey for the father from being this kind of, I don't know if you want to say greedy, but just kind of self-centered workaholic, who then learns to kind of open up and, I guess, be vulnerable and put himself out there and care for others and whatnot. So, one of the guys from Parasite, and The Host. And is there one more? He is the son in Parasite, and I think he was a driver in The Host, maybe. Oh, and he's in Okja too. Oh my God. Anyway, he's in this movie. He plays like I guess it's a high school. He's on a high school baseball team or a college baseball team, and they're like traveling back from a game, so they're all in uniform, and that was a brutal scene. I mean, there's no way to describe it. Like when, spoiler, basically, what's so appealing about this movie? It's almost like snakes on a plane, zombies on a train. Very simple premise, straightforward. But like you have to go from this car through other cars filled to the gills with zombies towards the front so that we can fucking figure out what's going on. And so one scene is like the entire car is filled with his teammates who are zombies. And it's like, this is your squad. It's your crew. Think about all those innings you've shared together, all those dugout stories about the previous night before. Yeah, so that was a heartbreaker when he had to go do that. When the big beefy dude. All right, well, I don't want to spoil it for anyone because I don't think a lot of people saw it, so I'll let you watch it. But I did get the idea, like, I think there's been there comes a point where there's a saturation point, maybe. Like it's just like, all right, we've seen this done to death. And maybe that happened with vampires after the whole Twilight trilogy, I think. But zombies, they keep on trucking, even with Walking the Dead. Like that's a fucking, like they're a dog, like it's a chore. Hey, did you walk the dead yet? Nah, well, you gotta walk the dead. If you don't walk the dead, The Walking Dead. You would think that we've hit, like, culturally, from an entertainment standpoint, we've hit, like, we've had enough, but I dug it. I liked it. Highly recommend. Heartbreaking ending. I'll just say that. I don't want to spoil it, but heartbreaking ending. Hot damn. I was kind of hoping for more of a comeuppance, retribution for some of the dicks in this movie. There were a couple. I guess the one executive, it's like, man, I need him to suffer a far worse ending than he did. But I think there was some social commentary there. I think that's a subtext here. Rich versus poor, the class war. I guess there's a pretty hardcore class war going on in South Korea. And so this father, divorcee with the daughter, kind of represents the one percenters, I guess, the upper class, the wealthy, the rich. And then you have like the poor who are neglected and fucked over and whatnot, that don't get the help that they need. So I guess it still depends on where you land on the spectrum and how you view this movie and how you interpret it. Like, yeah. So I highly recommend this movie. I wish I could talk about it more, but it's been a while since I saw it. It's been a while since I've talked about movies. And I had so much on the plate. We have two more. I'll be quick with Okja. I'll be honest. Okja. I'm really disappointed with Okja. 2 hours long, direct Netflix action adventure drama with a tinge of comedy. It came out. It debuted like late June 2017, directed by Bong Joon-ho, of course, who directed Parasite, The Host, and Snowpiercer, which I just saw a trailer for the TV series Snowpiercer on TNT, and that looks legit. A lot of times when they try to adapt a movie for TV, you're just like, this is not even close to being on the same level. But I don't know. That trailer got me hooked. Tilda Swinton So this was before Parasite, and I believe this was after The Host, and also after the Snowpiercer, which Tilda Swinton was also in Snowpiercer, I believe. Yeah. So Tilda Swinton plays the twins Lucy and Nancy Miranda, which is she's like the granddaughter of blah 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 Miranda of Miranda Industries, kind of a global conglomerate. This is where it gets tricky because I hate when IMDb does this. They give you like the cast in order of appearance. Don't do that. Just give me the big names, the big guns up top. I don't need to go sift into this bullshit. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal plays Johnny Wilcox, who's kind of like I guess the Jack Hanna parody. Kind of like a goofy, silly animal doctor who's been hired as like the face, the spokesperson of Miranda Industries to go around the world to see how all these different people are raising these what they call super pigs, which first and foremost, this thing does not look like a fucking pig. It's a hippopotamus. I mean, I'm blown away that no one in the movie was like, nah, it's a hippo. It's a hippo with big ears. I mean, first of all, you call it a super pig. It's got like elephant feet. There are no hooves. There's no snout. There was no pig snout. Why are you calling it a super pig? Anyway, I guess because people don't want it. Oh, okay. That makes sense. But still, to not have anyone called out, like, I guess you wouldn't eat a hippo. Like, hey, what's on the menu tonight? Hippo. Like, do people eat hippo? Why don't people eat hippo? They're just like sea cows. Well, maybe because they're endangered. You know, I'm not the smartest man alive. I'll say that. Blah 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 blah. Paul Dano plays Jay, who's the head of the Animal Liberation Front Force or whatever. That, I mean, their acronym is ALF, and no one made an ALF joke. I mean, that's a layup right there. And Lily Collins plays Red. Lily Collins she's someone's daughter. Phil Collins' daughter? I don't know. Critics' consensus is that Okja sees Bong Joon-ho continuing to create defiantly eclectic entertainment and still hitting more than enough of his narrative targets in the midst of a tricky tonal juggling act. Okay, sure, why not? 86% of critics gave it a favorable review, 7.54 out of 10 average rating, and 81% of the audience gave it a favorable review with a 3.9 out of 5. I'm gonna, I know you're thinking, Neal, you're gonna split the difference? You're gonna split the diff? No, I'm actually gonna go lower than that. I'd say lower than an 81. I actually say like a 75. I would say out of 100. Okja's face. I mean, this is the only note I have in the entire movie, is that Okja's face design was modeled after a manatee. And I said sea cow, and then I said hippo. So that's why I'm telling you, when I get something stuck in my craw, I cannot get it out. It's like after you eat popcorn and you got the fucking thing, a seed in your tooth. Like, I will continue. I won't go and do the simple thing, which is just fill your mouth with water and rinse, because that will dislodge the seed. No, I will sit there with my tongue and flick it and flick it and flick it and flick it for half an hour to an hour until it comes loose. And then I feel like I won something. And that's Okja. When they said super pig, I was like, and I saw it, I was like, that's not a super pig. That is a hippo or a manatee. But then, understandably, how are you going to market that as a food on a global scale? People love to eat pig, even though they're hyper intelligent beings. And that's why I've kind of cut down, not to sound like some kind of goddamn tree-hugging hippie, but that's why I don't eat pig as much as I used to. I mean, there were times, Jesus Christ, when I was living in Hoboken, you wake up hungover as balls at, hopefully in the PM, post 12 p.m., post noon, and wake up and it's just like order. I used to get, was it called D's Cafe? I think it was called. And I would get, it was like a breakfast burrito type wrap, eggs, cheese, bacon, sausage, ham. Like you don't need that much pig. You don't. And I did that every Saturday or every Sunday morning for like years on end. Unreal. I guess the most, I wasn't, I don't know. Jake Gyllenhaal just didn't do it for me. I'm usually like a big Jake Gyllenhaal fan. I pretty much like most of what he's done. Enemy, Nightcrawler, fuck them goddamn movie, The Watch, right? The Watch, but the cops, Southpaw, like everything he puts out there. Donnie Darko. I'm a big fan of it all. I found his performance was a little too wacky in this. I mean, there were some times where I like cracked a smile. I was like, that's, like he's just being so over the top with this performance in this role. But it just didn't click. Although the scene where they're in the fucking laboratory, the secret laboratory in Jersey, of course, Paramus, of course, where it's called marbling, which I feel like either I didn't know about or like, basically there's like this, almost looks like a cattle prod or like a tube, and they take it, and I guess while the fucking animal is still alive, they stick the animal and then really quick just go, and like it basically punctures into their flesh and extracts like a tube of their, like, I guess raw flesh. And then you see them like cook it up a little bit, I guess, on a little hot plate, and then they end up serving it to like a focus group, and they're like, wow, this is the best meat I've ever had. And it's like, does that really happen? While the animal's alive, you're doing that shit? Ugh. Gotta say, I don't want to be marbled. Put that on my will. Yeah, so that, you know what? Unpopular opinion, I'd say hard pass on Okja. I don't think you would need to see it. I mean, I don't regret seeing it, but I don't think you have to see it. So if you saw Parasite and The Host like I did, and you're like, should I watch Okja? You're fine not watching it. It just didn't, I don't know. Something about it just didn't work for me. So that's Okja. All right, let's finish up with Uncut Gems. I'm sure there's like a circumcision joke in there that it's too late. It's 11 o'clock. I'm running on fumes. Tanks on E. Uncut Gems, rated R. 2 hours and 15 minutes, potentially a little too long. I think the sweet spot is 2 hours or less. Unless you got like fucking Avengers Infinity War and there's 8 million storylines going on, you can quickly go through each one, and it doesn't feel, you could probably get 2 more hours out of me. Yeah, this one, it took me probably halfway to 2/3 through for me to be like, all right, I'm in. Pushing my chips, Jim Fossil, pushing my chips in the middle of the table. And that's a long time to wait for a movie to click, but that's how long it took. It's a crime drama thriller. Came out Christmas Day. Haha, so Jewish. I don't know. Written, directed by the Safdie brothers, who did Benny and Josh, who did Good Time. Adam Sandler stars as Howard Ratner, the jeweler, who is his gambling debts have got him in some serious trouble, and he thinks he's gotten out, and he's so close to getting out, and they just keep pulling him back in. Lakeith Stanfield, one of my favorite up and coming actors, plays Damani, who has connections with Kevin Garnett, who plays himself, Kevin Garnett. Mike Francesa has a cameo as Gary the bookie. Howard Ratner's bookie, Gary, and does a phenomenal job. I mean, he only has one scene, but he crushes it. Idina Menzel plays Dina Ratner, Howard Ratner's wife, who delivers one of the most that was a pretty, I want to say heartbreaking scenes, but it was just like, it was a punch to the gut. It was a kick to the dick. That scene where it's a family get together. I think it's maybe a Jewish holiday, possibly. Might be a birthday. I don't know. It was a celebration where the family was all there, and she delivers one of the most like stone cold lines right in Howard Ratner's face. Oof, that was tough to watch. And I got a feeling that's coming my way at some point. Yeah. The Weeknd, as The Weeknd, is in this movie, trying to like fucking do coke and hook up with that girl in the bathroom. It's just like, don't you know who I am? I'm The Weeknd. It's like, yeah, this is what I do. I do coke and I have sex in the bathroom. Judd Hirsch from Taxi and a whole bunch of other shit plays a Gooey, which never got the explanation on that nickname. Would love a story. Can't believe they didn't give us a really quick like vignette or something in the middle. You know how like in what was that called? The movie with fucking Patrick Bateman's brother that I was like in love with in 2003, 2002. Was at a college. Shannon Sossman was in it. Fucking Justin Timberlake's wife was in it. What was that movie? Undeclared. Nope. Rules of Attraction. Haha. Jessica. Not Alba. Come on, brain. It's in you. She did The Sinner. She was in Chuck and Larry. Jessica Biel. Woohoo. You know, we get there. Sometimes dig the scenic route. So anyway, in Rules of Attraction, there was this guy who was in the movie for like maybe 2 scenes, but they just decided in the middle of the movie, or when they introduced this character, they're talking about him, and he goes, and it's one of the coolest little vignettes or featurettes. And if you've seen Rules of Attraction, you know what I'm talking about. But they mention this character's name, and then they full on go into his like trip abroad and how he bounced around and did this and did that, and you know, and it's all in like feels like fast motion. He's talking very quickly, and they're just like speeding through his exploits abroad, you know, Spain, France, whatever. And it's just like completely epic what he went through. Like, and they speed through it in like 2 minutes, but it's like so like memorable. It still sticks with me, you know, fucking 2 decades later. Why didn't they do that with Gooey? You can't name a character Gooey and then not give me a story. Anyway, the fat Jew is in this. Josh Ostrovsky plays Noah. I mean, he's only in like, you know, a scene, and he has like one line. And you're like, oh, look, it's the fat Jew. Tilda Swinton's voice can be heard at one point. Natasha Lyonne's voice can be heard at one point. John Amos, the dad from Coming to America, is like the neighbor. And I mean, that's like such a ridiculous, and that seems to be like the trademark of the Safdie brothers. They do little things like get Tilda Swinton and Natasha Lyonne to do voiceovers and but not as themselves. Like, I don't know. And then, so when Adam Sandler as Howard Ratner is going to the apartment to see if his girlfriend has left and moved out yet, the kid, his son, is like, I gotta pee. Like, I'm gonna piss my pants. Like, can I pee in your apartment? And so I get, the weird part is like, and maybe a lot of families do this, and it's even crossed my mind, but it's like a sure guaranteed way to break up the family is like, if you have a house not in the city, right? So you have a house out in the burbs, either Jersey or Queens or Brooklyn or whatever, and you have to commute into the city, and maybe it's a long ass commute and you don't feel like commuting every day. I've been there. Rent an apartment in the city so you can just crash there and like at least save yourself a little bit so you're not a complete monster when you're around your family. I mean, but that's also a recipe for like middle-aged men who are just looking to cheat. So it's like, yeah. So it's like his family knows he has this apartment in the city while he has a fucking amazing house out in the burbs. But there's still this air of, well, we're not going to tell the family that we're getting a divorce. Like Howard and Dina are still, I guess, technically married, but like they don't want to tell their family they're getting a divorce. But it's like, people have got to be smarter than that. Like you're just going to happen to have an apartment in the city that you crash at 5 days out of 7. Okay. Anyway, so he's taking his kid who has to pee, but he's like, I don't want him to use my bathroom. So he's going to the neighbors' places and knocking on the door and being like, can my kid use your bathroom? Mine's out of order, quote unquote. And so as he's going up to the door, he's like, hey, listen, so the guy who lives here, he's a famous actor. His name is John Amos. He was in blah, blah. He was in this and this and that. Really great guy. And so he knocks on the door, and John Amos actually answers the door, and he's like, hey, my kid has to use the bathroom. Is that cool? And he's like, nah, get the fuck out of here. And he's like, all right, thank you. Loved you and blah, blah. I feel like that's such a Safdie brothers move. Anyway, critics' consensus is that Uncut Gems reaffirms the Safdies as masters of anxiety-inducing cinema and proves Adam Sandler remains a formidable dramatic actor when given the right material. Yeah, I would agree with that. Why they keep leaning that was a major reason why it took me so long to see this movie. You know, I think a lot of my friends went and saw it before I did, and the feedback I was hearing was like, anxiety. It induces major anxiety. And I was like, I don't need any more anxiety in my fucking life. Trying to do away with that. And there is a point where it's a fine line to walk as a filmmaker, because I feel like you run the risk of losing your audience. Especially there was a scene like in the shop, Howard's shop, where everyone is just talking over each other, and you're like, and it's going on for a considerable amount of time, and you're like, is this entertainment? Like, I understand what they're trying to go for, but like, hot damn, I don't want any part of this anymore. And I think the audiences agree. According to Rotten Tomatoes, 92% of critics gave it a favorable review with 8.3 out of 10. 52% of the audience gave it a favorable review with 3.08 out of 5, which is, it's tough. That's tough to swallow. And I think that's because the majority of people view Adam Sandler as a comedic actor, and they want the Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore Adam Sandler. They don't want the punch drunk love. What's another one? What was that 9/11 one? I didn't even watch that, but I don't think people want Adam Sandler as a dramatic actor, even though I thought he did give a tremendous performance. It took a while for me to accept it, because at first you can tell he's wearing fake teeth, and so you thought, like, is he being like, he's trying to play like a funny character? But then you kind of settle into it, and you realize that's just who he is, or who the character is. And I finally found myself rooting for him in that final act. You know, when he lays down the big bet. I mean, it takes a while to warm up to his character, and I think the first moment where you feel for him is when he places that big bet on KG. After he gives him the opal, the black opal, I think, a blue opal, and KG's like, I'm gonna light it up tonight, and so he immediately goes with KG's ring to the other pawn shop. Is like, I need a loaner. I'll come back with the money at this date. you hold this as collateral. He goes to his bookie, places the huge parlay, like 5-thing parlay. By the way, I'm not a gambler, not a huge sports gambler. I mean, if anything, I think I just basically gamble on DraftKings on football, college football, and NFL. That's basically all I do. And I'm very, very so much a bitch pussy when it comes to placing bets. I don't do a lot of risky bets, although I did do a lot of weird. When I first got into it, I was doing a lot of like 12 game parlays, but like heavy favorites in college football, because there's a lot of heavy favorites where it's like they're favored by like 20 plus points. And you'd be surprised how many of those I did not hit on. Because I guess Vegas just doesn't have a fucking clue when it comes to college football. But the bets that Howard Ratner places down are just insane. A I guess you would say 5-item parlay. Of the 5, it's like, so I understand some of it. It's like points and rebounds, Celtics to win, Celtics to cover. Okay, I get it. But then opening tip, the tip in basketball? No, thank you. I'm not touching that with a fucking 10-foot pole. I don't even know. I don't care what the odds are. That just sounds, and also, and he even said it like when he ended up placing the big bet on KG again towards the end. It's like it could all go away. It could this whole parlay that I have going on, it could be over with the opening tip. I mean, talk about like giving yourself a fucking heart attack. Like I was like, oh my God, if KG loses this tip and this huge parlay and this whole movie comes down to him losing the tip, and that, like, I could see the Safdie brothers really sticking it to us that way. Spoiler, he doesn't. So, but I mean, like, no thanks. If I'm going to put down a huge parlay, I'm not including the opening tip on that. So yeah, I mean, I would not say, do I want to split the difference again? No, I'm not going to go as high as the critics and say 92 out of 100. I'm not going to go as low as the audience, say 52 out of 100. So yeah, I guess I would split the difference here again. I'd say higher than 72 though. I would put this like almost an 80, right around that 79 to 81 range. I'd say is where I would put this. I mean, the ending to me really makes the movie. So that when it starts to pick up, and his girlfriend comes back in the picture, and she's like willing to put it on a line, and everything's, the walls are closing in on him, and he really needs it to hit, and it's coming through, and that twist at the end just stunk. But 50 million at the box office, and it was all domestic. 0 release globally. So for all this talk about content, the globalization of content, the localized content, stuff like that, I've now mentioned a few movies in this whole rundown where just didn't pop off internationally because the international appeal wasn't there. And I think this didn't even screen internationally, which is it's crazy to me. And I think just because there was just no flavor for it, which is interesting. I just don't think sports gambling and sports betting, I guess it doesn't have any real traction anywhere else. It's a New York-based movie, the world of jewelry. I mean, yeah, there were some scenes where they show you what happens in, with jewel mining. I don't forget where it was. But that's interesting that it just didn't get an international release. And only 50 mil at the box office, which I think because it was it A24? I think it was A24, yeah. So since it's a kind of a mini studio, not a huge like Warner Brothers or Sony or Universal, because it didn't have that kind of backing, this is still like a huge coup for them. Like still 50 mil is pretty good. I think it might be the highest grossing domestically for them. I'm probably making that up. It cracked the top 10 for a few weeks towards the end of the year, and it got a brief Oscar bump in the early February. The first draft of the script was written in 2009. Again, this whole process is just so long. It can be so long, especially when you don't have too many big names attached to it right off the bat. Like if it's not written specifically for a person and handed to that person's agent, or, you know, and a lot of like up and comers, first timers, this is how long the process takes. And it's kind of, it's deflating a little bit, you know, it's a little demotivational. It's like, boy. So if I finish this goddamn script that I've been working on or trying to work on for like 4 years now, it's gonna be another, if I finish it this year, it'll be 10 years before it's produced. And it's like, who knows if movies even still exist in the year 2030. So the first draft of the script was written in 2009. The Safdie brothers always wanted a Jewish actor to portray Howard, so they gave the screenplay to Adam Sandler, who initially declined. They then considered Harvey Keitel and Sacha Baron Cohen for the role before the brothers decided the part should indeed be played by a younger actor. When the movie got financed after the success of Good Time, which came out in 2017, the role went to Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill is just like fucking turning down shit left and right. When Hill wasn't available anymore due to his directing debut mid-90s, which I know a lot of people that liked it. I don't know. I think we turned it off. I know. I just heard a lot of people gasp and clutch their pearls, but I don't know. I just didn't. I think I was so, I don't know. I got like PTSD watching it. Like those are the kids that I just was like, I could not hang with, I guess. Anyway, after Jonah Hill turned it down, they approached Adam Sandler again 9 years later, and he finally accepted because he was so impressed with Good Time. Julia Fox plays Howard Ratner's girlfriend, his, I guess you would call it mistress. And she's a socialite, which I guess is like, how do you become a socialite? Is it just like you're the kid of rich parents and then you're just going out like constantly, and then you just go out so much that, and you're at so many places so many times that people are just like, yeah, I know that person. That's Julia. Do you know Julia? Oh, yeah. I mean, I saw her, blah, blah. But like, you have to be crafty as fuck. Like, you just have to just be a really likable, personable person who just like, who can just sweet talk your way into anywhere, I guess. Right. I mean, how many free house parties can you dominate in that short a time? She's not like in her 40s or 50s. She's like in her 20s. Socialite. She did a pretty good job though. I would have thought she's an actress. I would not think socialite. You could tell though that like that one scene with The Weeknd where like he's trying to you know, do coke and then do her in the bathroom at the club. Like that's like she's been there before. It's like, and like the ensuing fight that she has with Howard. It's like, that seems like something that, as a socialite, you probably have that's not your first rodeo. So she probably could fall back on her personal experience there. This is Kevin Garnett's in The Weeknd's feature film debut. And KG held his own, you know. I mean, he's playing himself, so it's like, not the, and same with The Weeknd. It's like you're not that too much of a stretch, but still, it wasn't like when you watch like Joe Montana on SNL. Dear God, sometimes when you watch some of these athletes on TV shows when they do like a cameo, like Brett Favre and fucking There's Something About Mary. Holy shit. Daniel Day-Lewis praised Adam Sandler's performance in this film. I mean, DDL, seal of approval. Doesn't get much better than that. The basketball series shown in the film was the 2012 NBA Eastern Conference semifinals between the Celtics and Sixers, which the Celtics won. And the opening and closing sequence floating through the opal. Still not quite. I mean, I understand. And, going back to 1917, that's like a huge thing with filmmakers. You start and end the same spot. But I didn't really fully grasp or understand the meaning of the opal, beginning and ending with the opal. I guess it's all about, in this case, it's not all about the Benjamins. It's all about, it is about the Benjamins, but via the jewels and the gems. And it's the fucking name of the movie, Neal. Uncut Gems. Jesus. But like, that's what makes the world go round. And that's what makes people lose their minds. And that's what makes people kill other people and cheat on other people and gamble their life away. But damn, when he fucking, that first big bet he had on KG, that his like cousin Armo, whatever his name is, put the kibosh on. It's a life-changing amount of money, at least for me. I don't know for him. He seems like he's the kind of guy that would just immediately parlay that into something else and lose big. But that's when I first started to feel for him, where he got like hustled into the car at his kids' play, and they're driving away, and he's like, "You stopped it? You stopped the bet?" I think he would have won 640 or something like that. So that I felt for him. Then I was like, "Oh shit, that sucks." But did not see that ending coming. I mean, I knew something. You kind of have a feeling that something bad's gonna happen because there's just too much good going on. Same with me. Like if personally, if I have if I'm on a good streak and there's just so much good going on, there's bad right around the corner. I just know it. So I can't even enjoy the good. Not great. But yeah, not as bad. The anxiety was not as bad as I thought it would be. I just think that for audiences to like this more as much as the critics, tough to say. Dial down. For all your Pittsburgh friends, dial down the frenetic pace. Maybe not have so many scenes with the overlapping dialogue. Add just a little more humor. Find out what the fuck happened with the opal when KG took it, and then Damani was trying to obviously cover his tracks and hide it. I don't know. Tough to say. It definitely did not need to be, was it 2 hours and 15 minutes? You could cut 15 minutes and probably replace another 15 minutes with that fucking gooey backstory, dude. I'm all about it. All right. Well, that's the show. I did see, we did watch some stand-up comedy. Bert Kreischer, Hey Big Boy. I thought it was pretty funny. Tom Segura, Ball Hog, which I think was actually better than Hey Big Boy. It's been interesting watching how far Tom Segura has come over the years. I remember seeing his first special, and it's even from that special to this special, you can see like a tremendous amount of improvement. Even though he's still like he still hasn't lost his edge. And then Taylor Tomlinson, Quarter Life Crisis, which I guess she's dating Sam Morril, who I loved his most recent special that was on YouTube. And this one, it's for some reason, you know what? I'm ageist. I don't know how to, I just am. I'm ageist as hell. And when I find out that she's 25 and I hear Quarter Life Crisis, I'm already put off by it. And it's just my own insecurity and jealousy. The fact that someone can have that level of success at 25 and I didn't, and I will never have anywhere near that success no matter what age I am. So that already puts me in a bad spot, but, you know, it was good here and there. Anyway, way to end on a high note, Neal. I will say next episode, I'll probably focus more on TV. I've been watching F is for Family. I finished McMillions. I finished Mr. Robot. I started Westworld. I'm all caught up on Dave. And then, of course, there's Tiger King. Have you had enough Tiger King? Well, you haven't had enough until you hear my hot take on Tiger King. No, we'll talk about it. I mean, I don't know that I'm going to give you anything special or important, but I'll say this right now. Best documentary series I've ever seen. And I know there are people out there who are probably booing me right now and are like, how dare you partake in that bullshit? I don't know what to tell you. I didn't kill those tigers. Spoiler. All right. So that's the show. Hopefully we'll get you another one in the next week, but it could be months. Who knows? I mean, I'm on Peloton now. I ain't got time for this. I got a Peloton. All right. Adios, muchachos.